scared?
Lights they flicker and the candles glitter like you're in a thriller. Heart goes pound, pound, pound. Ghostly figures, they can get so bitter. Show you want to enter, you can turn back now. You don't know where I've been. What's going on inside? Where the monsters like to come alive, come alive. Do you really wanna know me? I'm really not that cozy. It's up to you, so you decide, you decide. Would you love me up my words till the coffin's in the dirt? Try to break me like a curse, you know that will never work. I'm a little bit absurd, I like dancing on the verge. Anyone can love a pretty little mansion, but could you love a haunted, haunted house? Or could you love me now? A haunted, haunted, I'm a haunted house. A haunted, haunted house. If you're too scared, get out. A haunted, haunted, I'm a haunted house. Na 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 na. Broken windows and a warning scribbled on my wall saying that you better turn around. Wouldn't be the first to try to burn me down. Your move, you do. Would you love me up my words till the coffin's in the dirt? Try to break me like a curse, you know that will never work. I'm a little bit absurd, I like dancing on the verge. Anyone can love a pretty little mansion, but could you love a haunted, haunted house? Or could you love me now? A haunted, haunted, I'm a haunted house. A haunted, haunted house. If you're too scared, get out. A haunted, haunted, I'm a haunted house. Na 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 na. Na na na. Could you love a haunted, haunted house? Or could you love me now? A haunted, haunted, I'm a haunted house. A haunted, haunted house. If you're too scared, get out. A haunted, haunted, I'm a haunted house. Words till the coffin's in the dirt. Anyone can love a pretty little mansion.
Welcome to Journey Through the Gate, your paranormal portal podcast, as we delve into the many questions and wonders brought on by the supernatural experience. What's on the other side of the gate? Let's find out together. Gatekeepers! Gosh, it's good to see y'all. How y'all doing? You know, it's been such a rough week. Lots of big surprises for a lot of people that were not expecting to have their lives turned upside down. And our prayers and our thoughts and our good energy are absolutely with them, first and foremost, before we say anything. The events are still going on. Please follow your heart and your mind, and also be very careful how you do that. You know, be careful who you donate to or whatever. And there will be some links in my description. Give me a little time to get those up because I'm really vetting them very well. But they have not changed from last week. Pinball Preparedness, Patera, Appalachia Homestead, Grindstone Ministries, Bear Independent, Bear is getting it done. So many people I've known throughout the years and watched their channels grow and help out in certain situations. There's been a lot of them. And from a lot of the boots on the ground that I can speak to that I have known for years are coming out and saying that when they volunteer for certain disasters, whether it had been one names we have long forgotten, like Sandy, or so many. I won't even name them off now. You know what they are, but certain ones that happened in Texas and Florida and several others, that when they got there to help out, Grindstone Ministries was already there and handling and getting it done and doing it right. And the logistics and the coordination and the just hands-on. And so I highly recommend them. They're all over YouTube. There's lots of subsidiary groups that go out, and they don't just send people to one place. They go to multiple places. So again, I highly recommend Bear Independent and the other channels I mentioned, as well as there's multiple others. So what I've been doing since the storm landed is trying to hook up people with ham repeaters and numbers that they can get out information, and trying to keep this alive in the news, and trying to keep everything shared out and keep it in the headlines, because these people are in great need. And we tend to have that goldfish mentality where we forget because tomorrow something else takes its place in the headlines, and we can't allow that to happen to fellow Americans. So we'll talk more on that later. Tonight we're going to escape a little bit. We have some wonderful history and two fantastic women with me tonight. I'll tell you what, here's to everybody that is standing strong in all of this, and trying to help out, and feeling very lucky, and trying to find a way to insert yourself into the situation, what your talent is. If all you can do is just share the information, then do that. Keep it alive. Do something, And we're going to talk a little bit at the end of the show. I think Lynn and I will hang back toward the end and throw you out some ideas of how you might be able to help in your own community, what's required, what helps out. If you're going to do a clothing or a coat drive or something like that, how to ensure your stuff, your donations get to the people in need. So we'll talk about that here in a little bit. Welcome in. I'm so glad to see you all. Welcome, Uncommon Belief. Lynn's in the chat. Hey, Gerald, how you doing? Henry, good to see you, hun. Good to see you're doing good. How's all the livestock and everything? How's the animals? I'm always worried about them. They really got the big brunt of this too. And let's not forget, we've got a lot of wildfires going on in our west right now. Oops, there goes my lights. And many other things too. So we can't forget that there's people all over that need our attention and our love and our prayers and our light. And that makes it very hard on light workers like us, because we feel very drained. So let's connect in tonight and just refill that light. So without further ado, tonight I'm so glad to bring in Lynn. Has had to take a lot of time off. Her area was hit very, very hard, and we're so glad that she's able to join us tonight. And I wanted to bring her in tonight with Ms. Michelle because she's never got to meet her face to face. Plus, I think it's really great to have all this energy and light on tonight together because, we're all just drained. And, I honestly reached out to Lynn and said, come on with me because you're going to be able to think of things that I'm not, able to come to mind because we're all just so scattered right now. And I'm hoping we can just have a really nice visit. So welcome in, welcome in. So without further ado, Lynn Monet has had multiple decades in the medical field, mostly end of life care. She has gotten to see a lot of things that you might think you want to, but until you're there, it's kind of hard to judge. But one thing it's given, I think Lynn will agree with me on this. I think it gives us so much hope and so much peace and so much validation in our own self. That this isn't it. And it goes on. And I think that's the same thing as when we reach back into history, like we will with Michelle Hamilton, and reach back and know that those echoes in our history, they're not just made up stories. They're not just legend and lore. They're actual human beings that lived before we did, not very long ago. So let's bring Lynn in here. Lynn is an author and a medium and experienced many things herself. And I can't wait to get her in here. And she may be in here only in avatar because, like I said, we're just glad to have her. Hey, Lynn, how you doing, sweetie? Can you hear me?
Hey there, I can. Can you hear me?
I hear you, sweetheart. How you doing? First and foremost, how are you?
I'm hanging in there. I just got my internet back, sort of, which is why I'm on Avatar. Still kind of in and out. Got my electric
Gotcha.
back. Got my.
Gotcha.
I mean, everything was out. No cell phone service. It was a rough ride, but I'm grateful because it wasn't as rough as some of the other places have gotten it. And there's just so much underhanded stuff going on that people need to be careful of being scammed.
Absolutely.
With things. And even things that you would normally trust, you need to read the fine print because you can get it.
Oh yeah. And really I think what we'll do, Lynn, is if we're both feeling up to it, we'll take about 20 minutes at the end of the show and kind of concentrate on that, share a couple links with people, a little bit of hope, a little bit of good stories, and, a little bit of cautionary tales too. Try to get my main goal is to get links out there that people can link up. Some of the ideas you and I were talking about this afternoon, I think we need to put that out because wouldn't that be great if every neighborhood could do that? Plus you're connecting in with your neighborhood, and we think it's a great idea. So Henry says the wildlife is fine. His neighbors, cows and horses, etc., seem fine too. That's great news. One of the worst things is hearing what these poor animals go through. And I think it was yesterday, day before, I believe it was early yesterday, they found a trailer full of 6 horses that had been stuck in the mud. Unfortunately, the people that were trying to get them out were 20 miles away in the car that was originally pulling those horses. They're fine, they're out, and they're well. And the major thing, I think, in a lot of this chaos is people don't know what to do when, these kind of things happen. And I think one of the things I can say is the Humane Society and so many of the private shelters and volunteer shelters and things like that really kicked in to save so many animals. And I just appreciate them so much. And then people coming behind that and answering the call for feed and livestock, hay, and just all the things to feed these animals that were left behind and scattered and displaced. So I think that's wonderful. So there's some good notes there.
There's some good news.
Yes.
I want to commend too the fact that the majority of the help that is coming in are people like us that are coming in.
Ordinary people.
Yep, ordinary people. The other things haven't really been able to help us. They've been bringing in mules to carry food up into the mountains.
Go trailers, everything. It's amazing, Lynn. It's amazing. And it is. It's ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And it's just, just like we said during the #Liberty, that whole time I kept pointing. I'm telling you guys, Lynn and I knew We knew, we talked way about this last. We said there's all these things coming, and that's why we're sneaky. We're cheeky monkeys. That's why we put out all this stuff to give you guys strength and a little bit of, hope and validation in your own thoughts and stuff. Even going back into history and just, our Revolutionary War. The Green Dragon and the conversations that they had around their water cooler was, a beer stein with not too good beer in it, from what I understand. But I bet you there's a lady on tonight that can tell us a little bit about that, because her history is her thing, girl. And you guys have never met, have you?
No, I haven't, but I'm really looking forward to.
Yes, and I think you might have been. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. You go ahead.
No, and I was just going to say, I think you guys might have been at the same bash, but let's get her on here. So listen, I've got a titch of a video that says it all. When you're on here, you get a little video, especially when you're author. I love to show off the covers of your books and everything else. So we're going to take this, and then we're bringing her in. So, ladies and gentlemen, just a little bit of let's get spooky. Let's get a little haunted history. Here we go. Well, there you go. And that's just a little bit of it. And, to kick off spooky season, here we are, the first show of October. We're going to rock this one. We're going to have a good time. And I can't think of a better way to start it than having Lynn Monet and the lovely Michelle Hamilton. Get in here, darling. Welcome. Hey. Hi, babe. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. And listen, that's not all the books, is it? I mean, you've been going at this for a very long time. Give us a little bit of your bio. You've done so many interesting things. What would you like the gatekeepers here to know tonight? And welcome. Thanks for coming in.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. Yes, I was watching the montage there. I just realized that in my first book, I Would Still Be Drowned in Tears, which is on spiritualism. And Abraham Lincoln's White House, that just celebrated its 10th anniversary last year. It's like, oh my god, that long. So some of my books are edited, like Civil War Ghosts and Haunted Land are compilations of newspaper articles showing that people have been talking about ghosts in the United States since the very early days. So
interesting.
The proving of, and it started that I want to go back, and I was born in San Diego, California is where I came from. I got a master's in history from San Diego State, so I was a California girl. Never really fit in, didn't feel like I really belonged in California. And when I was in my teenage years, instead of going to the beach, and I hate the beach because I don't like sand and my shoes. And I don't like sand, period.
You were being called somewhere else. I think you were being pulled. You're being pulled.
I started working in Old Town San Diego and a place called the Whaley House, which is known as America's Most Haunted. And first I was interested by the history and then by the mystery. And so my mom sat me down, because I'm 16 at the time, and said, you're going into this, you need to realize that these are real people with real stories to tell. They're not a commercial creation. If you can't separate the two, history is not something that you should get into and look into another career. Because I always knew ever since I was very young that I wanted to be a historian. I wanted to study history. So I learned from the Whaley House and with my mom's help how to research. And this is before genealogy.
Wonderful.
It was before any of those. This is the early 2000s.
They're going to throw you bacon. You know the deal. You've been here before. They're going to throw bacon and love at you.
Okay, I love bacon.
While we go, you just keep going. You just keep going. They're going to throw love.
And so we started looking into the history of the property, because the history and the mystery have become so blurred by a previous organization who has saved the house, but historic preservation wasn't their strong suit. And so they kind of were elaborating and creating ghost stories to get people to come in. So we started looking into the history of the Whaley family, started uncovering a lot of things, started figuring out where various members of the Whaley family were buried, and started putting a lot of the myths to rest. In the process of that, the house is haunted. So we're seeing things, we're hearing things. I've been touched. I've been whispered into. I've had them play pranks on me. And so it's like, okay, these are people. They're a family. They pull pranks on each other.
Right.
The paranormal really isn't something to be scared of. I always kind of prefer the gentility drinking ghosts. I don't do the demons. I don't do the haunt.
Right.
I've been to a couple of like asylums or
here's the ghosts.
I don't like them. That's not my forte.
But you also draw what you put out. Yeah. You also draw what you put out. We believe that here, and everybody in the chat understands that. And before we go any further, Lynn, I just wanted to make sure that Lynn, Michelle, Lynn, and I think you guys may have done some bashes together. Maybe you were on the either side of the conference room, but I don't know. Did you do the last bash, Michelle, at Gettysburg Bash?
No, I did.
Okay, so she did, and you missed each other.
I did. What was it? Oh God.
Yeah, but we all know the same people. And we've all been in the same places. We just keep missing each other. But we'll all get together one day. But we all, we've all been down there in Gettysburg. And you are currently, not to change your track there, but you are currently at the Martha Washington Museum, are you not?
Mary Washington House in Fredericksburg, Virginia.
There you go. There you go. I knew you were currently in it. And I just think it's wonderful that you could pick history and find a way to interweave that in your whole life like that. My sister is Wall Historical Society, been the head of that for 30 something years. So I've had it all ingrained in with the colonial American Jersey, and I just feel like when you were saying that you're in California and being pulled away, kind of started at Whaley House, but kind of got pulled. It was almost like you were being called to a different place, because you seem very at home where you are now in Virginia. Yeah. I think it's wonderful. Please continue. I just wanted to make sure I introduced you guys.
That's okay. And so I finally got my master's. Took me a while. I had a couple, family drama, elderly. Math's not my strong suit. So a couple of years I was struggling to get out into a 4-year university. Finally did that. Finally got my master's in 2013. Wrote it on spiritualism. In the Lincoln White House. I always have this thing for women that historians, and I'll throw it out on this one, male historians have gone wrong. So I first started writing on Mary Lincoln and Abraham Lincoln, and that spiritualism, which is the birth of ghost hunting, was the fastest growing religion in the 19th century.
So true. So true.
It comes out in 1848. In Hydesville, New York. Sorry, England. I know you tried to claim it first. We started it. And so, that was the belief that you could speak to the dead, and that ghosts weren't something to be scared of. It was just the spirits of loved ones. And we're also talking about a time period where 2/3 of children didn't make it to the age of 5. So we are having massive amount of babies dying.
The grief always lures us to the grief leads us to the mystery, the whole thing. Yeah.
The number
After
one.
after a war, like you said, I think last time you were here, like after the Civil War, and nobody realized, you came out and gave a beautiful description of how it really engulfed the White House during those times through Lincoln and Mary, and how deep it really was, and how deep Lincoln and the entire family was into it. Of course, they were grieving horribly.
Oh yeah, 100 because
So
they lost their
yeah.
son Willie again.
Oh,
So we're having women first off, we have women who are making sure their babies are in heaven because organized religion, the Protestant religion, was unsure of how to deal with children in the cosmology. Depending on, because Catholics would baptize at birth. Protestants at this time said that the child had to have a born again moment. And the born again moment usually happens between the ages of 8 to 10, sometimes 12. But when the baby is 5 and under, or have not had that born again moment, many Protestant denominations struggled to say ever the child actually went to heaven or not. And so it was either stuck in some sort of limbo, not quite purgatory because that's too Catholic. So then they're saying, oh, the child has gone to the fiery pits of hell.
Mm-hmm. So true. Such an important point, not to cut you off, but it's such an important point because I've said this often. If you're going to be a paranormal investigator of any kind, whatever that means to you, whatever your vantage point is on that, whether you're in for the tech and the evidence, or whether you just want to prove it to yourself, or whatever you're doing with that, it's very important to know who you're talking to. As you stated, Michelle, right in the very beginning, I believe you said your mom told you that these are people and the human beings that lived before. And once you connect into that, and I think that probably gave you your depth of connection, that deep connection to the history too. And if you have that as a paranormal investigator, I think it adds so much to the group, to your own experience, to, maybe the whole outcome of the experience. So many just want to communicate. And I think it's so important to understand the religion of it. I brought that up when I was talking to soldiers in Gettysburg.
Of who you're talking to.
Yeah, what they believe.
There was a certain paranormal show years ago that started rune casting in a Puritan house from Salem. That did not fly over well. In fact, they had to come back and clear it the next year. Let's have a little consideration that that there were no witches in Salem. They were all Puritans. There were
true. Yeah, no witches were burned in the
modern day definition of what a witch is. There were no witches in Salem. Nope. And in fact, the descending groups are very strong on that and are get very insulted if you call them witches, and rightfully so. So opening up rune casting in a house of a Puritan family and a high-ranking member of the Puritan church, that's not going to go over well.
Yeah, and it's common sense if you look at it that way. But I think what happens is people forget that important aspect. And Lynn, Lynn says the same thing. It's people.
And a certain channel wanted something good for a Halloween special. I mean, I get that. I mean, that's just
and they have to make it, everything's a demon every time the boards crack and every time they get out, did you hear that? No, I didn't, but they're missing all the good stuff. And I always love that about you. And Lynn is the same, where we go at it as a nurse, as, someone at the end of death. I'm sorry, I always get the names wrong. I get docent, okay, and doula.
Are you talking about death doula?
Yes, thank you. My chat knows me. I'm tongue-tied and crazy. I can run all along, but gosh, I get trip myself up over my own tongue. So those things are so important. And I think as a native and looking at that, we call it singing over, same thing, and also connecting into our ancestors and understanding. I think that's what helped me walk into it with that understanding, and why this makes so much sense to me. If you're talking to soldiers in Gettysburg, that was the number one thing I had to learn. What was the prominent religions at the time? What did they believe? Because I got to try to get them to walk into the light, giving them a chance for those who were ready to go. A lot of them had to have permission. Once I understood as a soldier, because I'm ex-Army, they had to be relieved of duty. They were good. So I'm totally picking up what you're putting down, girl.
War for like if you're doing the American Civil War, what state? Figure out which denomination. If you're Pennsylvania Dutch, you're probably German Lutheran Reformed. If you're Louisiana, you're from New Orleans. There's a good chance they're Catholic. But there's also Jewish. There was Jewish regiments. There was other, all denomination regiments. And there's another thing we don't talk about in the Civil War. There was a lot of Jewish regiments. Savannah, Georgia had a large Jewish population. So how does those spirits conduct with Christianity?
This is so true. And I think that's what happens. Lynn and I have talked about the story of, we all know Mark Nesbitt being out of Gettysburg, his Mark. Wonderful, oh God, I love him. And Carol, just wonderful, wonderful people. See, we all know the same people. So he has a story anyway. I'll make it really quick. In Farnsworth, he's up in the sniper nest, basically in Farnsworth attic. Mm-hmm. And he was with another medium, a friend of his, and they had gone up a couple times trying to talk this one. I don't know if he was stuck or if he just came back because so many people keep talking to him about it, but it was one of the snipers that was possibly shot Jenny Wade. Okay, the civilian killed in Gettysburg. We don't know. We can just assume it came from there, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, they were talking to him, and I don't know whether he actually did it and has guilt of that, or is hearing that he did it and has guilt from that. Like, maybe I did. I mean, after all these years, hearing all these people talking, they hear you too, Yes. So they're up there talking to him, and he wouldn't really completely trust them until they went back and they put on the uniforms, and went up and spoke to him as just part of his group and part of his squadron, and they got that beautiful EVP at the very end when they said, walk into the light. And he just said, heaven, but they had to go with him via his beliefs. I believe in this case, it was Protestant. Mm-hmm. And he had all of those hangups about going through, but I've done this. I can't go through. I cannot face this person. Are you finding that a lot in some of the ghosts that you find that are hanging back? A lot of people say unfinished business. We make it so easy. I think you're probably dig a little deeper on some of those things. Are you finding that a lot of them are hanging back for guilt or not understanding, judgment?
I'm not sure because why they hang around. The little bit of paranormal investigating that I've done, I usually don't try to broach that subject to have politeness. I try to treat them as living and that we're guests in their home, and I don't really want to go into their deaths because I don't know if they know their past.
True.
I think there was one time at Gettysburg, I did a pendulum search with a gentleman who I didn't know that he was gone, and through conversations I talked to him and explained to him why I was dressed funny, because I was telling him that on my time period it's this year, and I know on your time period isn't this year. And so I was saying, like,
so important.
Good news for you. The war is over. Your side won. It's okay to go now, because I says, because it was like yes, no. And I was like, can you see me? It's like, yes. Do you see that I'm dressed funny? Yes. I'm wearing black. Do you think I'm in mourning? He says, yes. I says, okay, no, I'm not. I'm not in mourning. It's okay. Where I come from, this is my time period. This is where I come from. This is okay for us to dress like this.
So important. What they see, what they understand. So important.
I was like, do you understand what I'm saying? He's like, yes. And I says, okay, I have good news for you. You won the battle. And the war's over. I said, do you understand? He's like, yes. I was like, okay, slavery has been abolished. It's done now. We're a united country now. And I says, you don't need to stay anymore. Do you want to go? And he's like, yes. I says, okay. I says, you're free. You have been forgiven. You had to do what you had to do. And I was like, I said, your friends and family, they're waiting for you. They're on the other side. And at one point near that, I says, do you see a white light? And he's like, yes. And I said, okay, my friend, and go for it. I said, don't look back and go straight forward. And
Beautiful.
I said, you understand? And it says, yes. And then after that, it stopped. I'm like, go, my friend, go.
And you felt it. You probably felt that difference in the room. I mean, we all feel it. I mean, Lynn, you felt it when people leave, when the things that you can see when people cross over. And it's just, you can feel the atmospheric change in the room. And it's just such a light.
It's your decision. You can stay here if you want. We don't have a problem with that. I just want to make sure you're okay.
And
if you want to stay, was perfectly fine. If you want to go, go. I said, I have a feeling you probably come back and visit us if you want to. It's like, but it's like, do you see what do you see a white light in the corner? And it kept going, yeah, because sometimes I was getting no, so it wasn't strictly getting all yeses. And then because I'm like, do you want to stay? And it stops and it goes, no. It's like, okay, then go. And I says, run for it and don't look back.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And so many times I've got so many stories that are similar to that. Thank you so much, Scott's Life. So good to see you. Okay. And again, guys, so good to see you, Froze. So many people are so close to this utter devastation. I mean, town's completely wiped out, and, just so many things. And there's so many of our friends out there I have not heard from. There's a couple that aren't here tonight that I know that are okay. So I'm so glad to see so many of you in the chat, and I'm just so glad that you're good. And I've not forgotten you, my friends. I promise you. This is going to take months, and I'm in it for the long haul. Thank you so much, Scott's Life. I appreciate you, darling. Thank you so much. So, and everybody's got it rough. And like I say, just like you're saying, Michelle, just like I know Lynn's done, so many times, and myself too. People misunderstand when we say we try to talk to them and tell them it's okay to go into the light and try to hook them up with that. You mentioned remembering their religion. What did they believe? Were they Jewish? Perhaps we need to bring someone else in here, a rabbi or something. We think the same thing with Native American. I often, shaman friends of mine, same thing. You're having a problem at the cabin, whatever. We find out that this was native land. Let's go find the local shaman, bring them in here, tell them what's going on, do an offering, do whatever we have to do, but try to do what they're going to understand in respect of how they believe. And I think it's great that we can find all these different ways to get them to that light. But I think there's a big misunderstanding too. We don't mean, just like Michelle said, we don't mean that we're forcing them. We just want them to understand. It's a bit like therapy. Lynn and I have talked about that before, because you don't know what state they're in. Like you said, that you really enjoy I'm in their world. I like the gentle ghosts, the ones that are just come breeze through and whisper through, and that's a lot of times what we deal with here on this show, because people forget about those. I think they're the most important. It's not just what we absolutely know exists out there. If there's good, there's bad. And, some were never people at all. And gosh, we know that human beings living can be jerks. So you never know what you're dealing with. But I think you also draw what you put out, your energy. And I think we can, kind of block the other stuff with our light. And I think that's why so many good are drawn to you. You have a wonderful light, just like Lynn does. I can see it. And I think that when we say we want them to understand that their loved ones are in that light, it's the hardest thing to get them to connect back into that remembrance of love and faith and whatever they believe into.
Remember, John, says your friends or family are waiting for you, and they cannot wait to see you.
Cannot wait to see you.
They are eager. You will see them as soon as you cross over.
And then,
I says no time has passed over on that. They're in for they cannot wait to see you.
It's just like with this, and you're just right in there. And sometimes it's great to ask them to come through, ask your guides and your spirits, whatever, to bring forth some of those loved ones, because so many EVPs that I've heard and been involved with in cases where I've heard at the very last minute, like that, Heaven was a woman this was in a cellar in Gettysburg. There were several spirits down there of different time periods, mostly from the Civil War time. I think they gather sometimes, even sometimes they're not even aware of each other, but they gather because of the energy. This woman was guarding a couple of kids, and as we opened up the light and tried to put as much love into that, and light into it, you could hear at the very end going, "That's simple," and poof, she was gone. And everybody just and then you felt the atmosphere change. Some hung back because they weren't quite done getting some answers and some other things, but free will, it's so important. And I think hooking up with that history gives you such a sharper edge for that. And I think it's wonderful. And I wanted to make sure everybody knows where to get your books before I forget. So what's the best place to go to? Because there's so many good ones out there. And listen, guys, we got winter coming. We've got Christmas holiday season. We all love spooky. Lynn's books, Omnipresent series, all the different books, Michelle's books. They're wonderful. Tell us about it. Where to
You
get
can
them?
find Amazon.com. And in fact, on Monday, my newest book, Haunted Fredericksburg, came out.
I can't wait for
So
that one.
that's about Fredericksburg, Virginia. There has not been a good ghost book on Fredericksburg in decades. And
Right.
I joke that Fredericksburg it started, we had more paranormal tours, we would give Gettysburg a run for its money. Because Gettysburg, you're all pretty much on 1863, though there are, like, when we were at the Farnsworth House, and it was the Farnsworth House I encountered the one spirit in the dining room. And then out in the backyard, there was a African-American gentleman that was from, that was enslaved person. And so that would be colonial to early 1800s. Fredericksburg, Virginia, we have everything from, it was Native American territory.
Right.
It's Rappahannock River. It was Fredericksburg is situated the way it is because it is the last port city on the Rappahannock River before the falls. The falls prevented ocean-going ships from going further. So we have everything from colonial to Civil War. Civil War is a lot, colonial is a lot, into modern day development.
It is absolutely beautiful. I loved the structure of the houses. Like you said, you could give Gettysburg a run for your money. And you know what? You know who else says that? The Nesbits. Because Mark had a walking tour through Fredericksburg, and they're just something with it. All the stories and being able to walk through and it's wonderful.
In here too.
Oh, really? Oh, fantastic. Tell us something. What are your favorite stories? I have a few pictures as I showed. I think one of the jail. I'm not sure where this one is, but this one was on a haunted tour. It's just, I love the structure of the buildings. This is the jail.
That's Fredericksburg, Texas. So that's not us.
Oh, it's not you. Oh gosh. I'm sorry. I hit the wrong one.
A couple of years ago, one of the Fredericksburg one of the Fredericksburg trolley tours stole all of our information, all of Fredericksburg's information. So apparently in Fredericksburg, Texas, George Washington grew up.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
We often get confused.
So funny.
Funny because Fredericksburg, Texas has wine, and not too far from Fredericksburg we have wine. So sometimes, that was.
Now this is correct, right? The battlefield. Okay. Yeah. Because this is one of my favorite stories, and I promise I have to just get this out, and I'm gonna shut up, and I'm gonna let Michelle tell us her stories of the Fredericksburg. But when I was bringing my son back from Alabama, we stopped at every Civil War battlefield and place like that we could along the way just to make the trip better. We stopped at Fredericksburg. It was my first time there. I had been reading about it forever, and my favorite story is Kirkland, the Angel of Marie's Heights, and it's absolutely, to me, it's the epitome of graciousness in times of need. Strangers helping strangers, like we are right now, like we're seeing now. That's something everybody always underestimates, the intestinal fortitude of the American, and how much we actually, when the chips are down. Do you know the story of Miss Richard Kirkland?
Yes, I do. I do talk about him a little bit in my introduction. During the Battle of Marie Heights, which is December, early December, it lasts from 11 to the 13th. Battle of Fredericksburg was the first urban amphibious landing in U.S. history, because actually the Union forces were in Stafford, which is right across the river, and they had to cross on pontoon boats across on pontoon bridges across the Rappahannock River to invade Fredericksburg, where the Confederate Army was positioned. And Fredericksburg is high up on bluffs. We're staggered, so we're staggered bluffs. And by the time that the Union Army finally crossed over, the Confederate Army had fully entrenched into the town. So it was pretty brutal. It was urban combat. It was early combat, urban combat. And the Union Army is able to push the Confederate Army out of the main part of Fredericksburg, which is on the river, and they finally push them up to a place called Marie's Heights, which is now where the visitor center is at. The whole town is a battlefield, like Gettysburg. The whole town is a battlefield. And you're muted, honey.
Dummy. Oh, I'm sorry, I was muted. I was saying that the topography there is very hilly, so you've got these ditches and these great, the famous sunken road is there. I've got a little tape I can show you of the American battlefield going through. It's like a little 3-minute tape, but you get to see what Michelle is describing
Yeah.
here. And it's when you walk up those ridges and you look down where that big house is, there's a big cemetery there. You know how you look up from the visitor center up? It's an amazing, it's like Gettysburg compact. It's really tight. You'd be surprised how tight this area was. It's really amazing. And some of the houses that are still standing, like that one woman's house there right by the road, crazy. But keep going. I just get excited. I get excited with Civil War. Go ahead.
And so the Confederates are behind the stone wall, and the stone wall is on the sunken road. And the reason it was called the sunken road was that was the main thoroughfare from the rural counties, from Spotsylvania, Orange, any of the places that we needed, because agriculture. So tobacco, grain, corn, all of that was brought into Fredericksburg where there was railroads, and so they'd be shipped out to be processed. So over time, the weight of the wagons sunk the road. So there was actually a good divot in the ground, and so they have the stone wall. And so the Confederates were positioned behind the stone wall, were firing almost nonstop on the Unions. The Unions were going up a hill, because where that was actually the race course, where they had been. See, all the clear area on the picture showing there, that had been the fairgrounds, and also where they had horse races. So it was flat, but then you have to go up a hill. And General Burnside thought the genius position, the Union, if you don't first succeed, try again, and continue to have the Union Army charge up against an embedded enemy. And so it was just mass slaughter. And the darkness comes because we're in December, so evening comes early. So there were Union soldiers who were injured, dying, hurt, laying on the ground, freezing to death, because it's wintertime and we do get cold in Virginia. It was very cold. It actually was so cold during the Battle of Fredericksburg that the Aurora Borealis, actually, the Northern Lights, were actually seen. It's one of the few times.
That's incredible. Because I often wondered where that was, and I thought it was there. The Aurora Borealis, and they laid there wounded, looking up at that, and you're talking about what they believed. Imagine what they thought.
The movie.
I'm sorry.
The movie Gods and Generals.
Yes.
They do a really good job showing the Battle of Murray.
They sure do.
In fact, even with 20th Maine from Gettysburg, they were in that battle. And in fact, I go to the 7-Eleven weekly where they actually assembled to go up Murray's Heights. It's now 7-Eleven. I joke when they go get their Slurpees in their canteens.
Wow. That's so surreal to me.
Everywhere. It's a modern city, but you can't swing a dead cat without hitting the ghost. It's just not.
I know it's crazy, but to stand at the 7-Eleven and to think, I just did the Battle of Monmouth. Stood by, the actual. I grabbed a couple of historians, brought them on the podcast. It was great. We had a great time. But I'm looking for Molly Pitcher's Well. So it's like, there's a stone here, but it might have been here, could have been here, and the historian goes, where it is? Over there. And I mean, she trekked those buckets of water. They make it sound so.
And Monmouth was very hot, and that's why she was out there, because it was extremely hot. I think Monmouth, they had more casualties to heat stroke than they actually did to being shot.
So correct.
And also
56
during the Monmouth reenactments, the people dropping flies. Historical reenactors were very accurate. They dropped down from heat stroke. Very, very accurate.
So true. And I listen, and the uniforms, they're so heavy, and they're not supposed to be taking them off during battle. And I walked very much like you're describing in Fredericksburg, the hill. It's a slow grade, constant going up the hill to go towards where they were shooting the cannons. It's crazy.
You're going up a hill.
I know.
Until you realize you're on a hill.
Now you're dragging, you're hoofing in the mud because it had rained so much before the Battle of Monmouth. And I mean, I know we're jumping all over the place here, but it's the same. It's the soldiers and what they went through, the similar, and dropping like flies like that. I can see the humidity and everything else, and a couple of horses too. I mean, I think Washington lost a horse there. Same. we forget what they went through. But please continue. The Angel of Marie Heights. That was a beautiful story.
Kirkland, who is a Confederate soldier, he hears the Union soldiers who are wounded and are crying and are wounded and moaning and crying, and so he can't stand listening to anymore. So he's from South Carolina, so he got permission to. He took his canteen and he actually went over in the middle of when it was a lull in fighting and it was dark, and he went and he found wounded Union soldiers and dying Union soldiers and was giving him water, and so he was allowed to come back and forth between the time when the battle was not going on because of they couldn't see, and so he was given water. And then a year later, the Battle of Chickamauga in 1863, Roland passed away also in battle, so he didn't make it either.
That is so sad. And I mean, but I love the story because it's the epitome, like I said, of he just didn't have any, what's left in his jar. He didn't care anymore. Yeah. He was just, that's it. I can't take it. Give me your canteens. I'm going. And everybody stopped.
His companions, his other his Confederate companions started giving them his canteens, and he was bringing extra canteens and just slogging as many packets. Because also there's
beautiful that must have been that moment
behind him that he could go and get water from. There's a tributary, the Rappahannock River, that kind of runs through this section of the battlefield.
It's just amazing to, and I think those are the stories, and I love how you capture them in your books too, because it takes you back there and you touch on a lot of the emotion and the human emotion of what was going on during the day, to catch it all, because it's hard this day to try to get to people to understand what people are going through that survived the hurricane. It's like you don't understand. I was showing on my social media a lady doing tub laundry, and trying to wash her family's clothes, at the creek. And here we are going back to the days again, So if you can understand what these people went through, if you try to connect into that, I think your intent, your energy starts sinking a little bit to them, and to go in with that kind of understanding, because you can't stand on a battlefield, whether it's Gettysburg or Monmouth or Fredericksburg, and not feel this. And to hear stories like that, I think give us hope for today, because the same thing is going on today, so much good comes. I think, like I say all the time, Mr. Rogers said, when a tragedy happens, look for the helpers. You know what I mean? It's just funny.
I remember the first time I visited Fredericksburg. I'm walking through and this is a tourist one. I'm still living in California, and I'm walking through the where the soldiers are buried at, which is buried up on the hill of Maurice Heights. The Union Army took it over after the Civil War and turned it into a national battlefield, and it has the dead from Fredericksburg, Chancellorsville, Spotsylvania Courthouse, and the Wilderness, and plus those who died from illness in Fredericksburg. And I'm walking through and I'm just seeing so many unknowns, unknown. And I'm like, I am so sorry you're unknown. I'm so sorry you're not known. And I heard this male voice that says, that's all right. It's better than being buried in a ditch.
This is so true. Again, reminds me of walking the ditches in Gettysburg, and that one field where I can't remember the commander who gave the fire command and all that, but the way they stood up and
Iverson's Pits.
Yes, and just stood up, and then they knew it was going to be a slaughter, and they continued to do it. It's almost like watching a car accident where both cars are just going at each other and nobody's stopping, they just landed right there.
They got mowed down such precision that they were laying so straight. He thought they had surrendered and was yelling at them for "Get up, you cowards!" And no, they're dead. They're
all dead. They're all in a line, all the way down as far as your eye can see. I've stood there and looked down the end of this ditch, and that's what she just reminded me of. But we also had that in the Sunken Road as well.
Some of them were still there too. The Confederates realized. Fredericksburg is we have. There's a Confederate cemetery in town, and there's a Union cemetery. Because Fredericksburg was the Confederate city. So the women's organization took part of the city cemetery and put the Confederates there. Fredericksburg also, because it was Union territory, actually, Union having occupation, they took over and they took their section. In Gettysburg, the guys were either they're still out there, we think.
Mhm.
Or after the Civil War, we had women's groups from the South come and take them, and like there's a bunch of them in Richmond, at the Hollywood Cemetery, and there's other places. I know Savannah, Georgia has a bunch of Gettysburg, but at Gettysburg there is still a lot of guys still out there.
Buried all through.
I wouldn't go wandering too far in those pits,
Yeah.
where you see the wall where it's not straight. I really wouldn't go too far into some of those areas.
That ditch where there's that these rock walls. I mean, the rock remembers the trees, remember the witness trees, all of that stuff. We get so much energy, all of us get so much energy off of those. It's difficult for any empath or anybody with abilities to walk into any of these places and not feel that heavy, that weight, but when you walk up to one of these places, like Michelle's talking about, you can't help but get that overwhelming feeling. And there's a rock wall in Gettysburg. It's in town now, and it was then as well. And this is along a ditch where all of the wounded were laid down, because they thought at that point in time it was high ground. And they were putting all their wounded there, and then it started to rain. And much like just happened, God help us all, in the Appalachian Mountains, the rain, when it started coming, would not stop, and it flooded and it drowned the wounded there. And they say if you sit on that wall, you'll feel the hands pulling, and I wouldn't be surprised. People have been slap punched, going up there acting disrespectful. I despise that. I despise the
I was on a
provoking.
ghost tour. They took us back there, and there was a woman that was on her honeymoon. And,
oh gosh.
We took the tour, and she was from the South, and I'm really sorry, honey. They had me very badly. I sang a pro-union song, and she was Southern, and somebody grabbed her ankle.
Yo, yeah.
I'm so sorry. Yeah. That's not what I intended.
That's true. And I think that, like I said, they know the intent, and I think there's different ones. And I love that, you and I have touched on this before, and I know Lynn and I have many times. We have to think of the frame of mind the ghost is in. We've touched on that. But when you have these groups of soldiers in these battlefields, and a lot of these houses that were used as hospitals, and convalescents, just the whole thing, and just having them wandering and then drawn there because there are other spirits in the house, like at Whaley and a lot of the places that you've been.
Well, even the place where I work, the Mary Washington House, which is on the cover of the book, I put my place.
That's great. That's great.
And, during this, I talk about the house is history of, not only is it colonial, and we have colonial ghosts, we have enslaved workers, we also have a Civil War soldier, and we think he's Union, because the house was used as a hospital for Union and Confederate soldiers throughout the war. And during the war, six Union soldiers were buried in the backyard. 5 of them are unknown. We do know the identity of one of them. I do detail the really unfortunate typo on his headstone. It's a naughty word. Let's just say that his name in German and an H and a K look very similar. So F-U blank, you see blank, the number, the actual word. So his name is Fuchs, which is German for fox. So Fuchs has an unfortunate typo on his headstone.
Oh my goodness.
He was buried in the backyard of the Mary Washington House. We don't know why. He died from yellow fever during the occupation, very shortly after this Civil War ended.
Wow.
But some psychics think that he hangs around. He kind of serves as our protector because of the staff, the majority of in historic preservation and museums, especially house museums, a lot of the staff tends to be female.
Right.
And so he kind of hangs around to be our little protector.
Isn't that nice?
And we've had paranormal investigations where German has been picked up, which is interesting because he was a German immigrant. I'm not sure if he would have known English or very, very limited English. He came, I have been able to do some ancestry work on him and found that he came to the United States very shortly before the American Civil War, never married, and was drafted near the end of the war got into this Union Army and was put on occupation duty in Fredericksburg, and he got yellow fever from mosquitoes and didn't have immunity to it, and perished in September of 1965.
Oh, wow.
And
Wow.
was
And
buried in the backyard.
when you're working on things, because I've had this experience, when you're working on, I can't imagine being in the house or the library close to town, doing research on these people. You feel like they're right there with you. You're connected into their energy because you're thinking about them and you're reading about their life. And I often get that. I mean, I think one of the strongest ones I ever got, other than writing the book, Cabin 22, I believe that some of those characters came to me and put those thoughts into my head as I was writing, because I just forget those entire pages. But I think that when the biggest one that I had was Lon Chaney Jr. When I felt like he was standing right there and he was smiling when I was doing an homage to him, a video. And it was just, I've never felt it so strong, other than relatives and people I know I'm connected to. That's first stranger that was ever like that. Do you get that when you're in the house and you know a little bit about these people and their stories? And do you feel that?
There's times where you don't feel. I know I'm not alone in the house. I don't know what it is. I've had stuff every once in a while get moved in my office, and every once in a while, and I talk about some of the pranks that's happened to the staff in my book. There was one of the ghosts, because at one time the Mary Washington House was also a boys' school. So every once in a while there was a ghost that would help us with our filing, and usually that involved putting the papers everywhere. And in fact, not too long ago, a couple weeks ago, I had a staff member come in and find that I was writing a report, and the papers were all over my office. It's like, okay, guys, put it back on.
Put it back. Yeah.
Put it back. Knock it off. I usually I'm not in the mood for your foolishness right now. If you're gonna knock that thing over, you better be picking it back up.
Wow.
But no, it was an easy book to write, which surprised me how easy it was for me to write. So maybe it was that I was
a little help from the other side.
Yeah.
Isn't that neat though? Because sometimes I think their stories want to be told. I had Mark Shaw on here, and he's done a lot with the Kennedys and a lot of books on Dorothy Kilgallen and the mystery behind the Marilyn Monroe and that kind of thing. And when he was doing Dorothy Kilgallen, which was a fantastic journalist back when Kennedy was president and before, he would go into the dentist office, and there would be a magazine on top that had an article about something that he was looking for. I mean, just wild, out of nowhere kind of stuff. And you just know that, it was supposed to be there for him to see it, and she had a hand in it, kind of thing, all through him writing the book. It was just an amazing thing. And there's been so many things like that. And I just thought for sure some of these soldiers would be drawn to you with your intent and your light and everything else, that, they would want their stories to be told. But now listen, I've got a small little 3-minute video from the American Battlefield Trust. They do a fantastic job over there. Even though this young historian, I got to say, all the Gettysburg vids I watch, he's so annoying because he always Gettysburg. Every time somebody says Gettysburg, he's right there to correct it. But God bless him, he's a smart young man. He's going to show you about the sunken road and give you a little bit of the topography of Fredericksburg. Then we're going to come back and we're going to get some of Michelle's favorite ghost stories and see what Lynn has to say about this whole thing. I'm going to get some hot water for my tea, and we'll be right back. And oh, you're going to get some? Yes, get your snacks. I've got some beautiful pumpkin spice cinnamon donuts, and I'm going to partake during this video as well. So let's see if I can push the right buttons to get this. Yep, I think this is it. And see the sound, you guys can hear it, and I'll be right back.
I'm standing in the midst of history here in the famed sunken road at Fredericksburg, Virginia. Off to my right, in December of 1862, 7 failed Union assaults took place towards the stone wall, trying to take this sunken road, and of course the famed Marie's Heights off to my left. Now, this wasn't just one battle here in Fredericksburg. There was a second one that took place in May of 1863. In fact, 18 months of hard war came across this landscape. The civilians who lived in this area, like Martha Stevens, who had a home near here, will see more than 1,000 bullets riddle her house during the First Battle of Fredericksburg. In fact, a shell will crash through her home, explode in this road, and will strike Thomas Reed Roots Cobb, mortally wounded in the leg, and he will bleed out a few hours later. Another man was named John Rogers Cook. He was also wounded, but in the head. He'll survive, and the brother-in-law of Jeb Stuart that he was will be wounded 4 more times during this war. We also had the Innes House. Today we have monuments to Martha Stevens and Thomas Reed Roots Cobb. And we also have homes that were once out here sitting up on top of Maurice Heights, known as Brompton. But the most famous photograph to be taken in the Fredericksburg area is probably one taken on May 3rd, 1863 during the Second Battle of Fredericksburg. That battle took place between Union and Confederate forces, and men from Maine, New York, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin assaulted across the open plain that was once here towards where we're standing, tangling with William Barksdale and 2 of his Mississippi regiments. I invite you to step in with me to see this famous photograph, which most people think was taken in December of 1862, when in fact it was taken on May 3rd, 1863, just a few hours after the battle concluded. We're seeing exactly what photographer Andrew Russell came upon: dead Confederates. These Confederates would have been killed in action, some by bullets, some by bayonet. This hellish landscape would play out here, and this hellish story came together as Union forces came over the stone wall, jumped inside of this road, and at least 40 Confederates were bayoneted, according to Medal of Honor recipient Charles Clark. You know that the bayonet was used freely. You can see here an Enfield musket with a bayonet on it. More muskets with bayonets affixed are here as well. You'll notice down inside of this road a trench. That trench was actually cut by the Confederates, improved this defensive position. Why? So you could go up against that wall, step down into that trench, load, step up to the wall, fire, step down, reload. We know that they're firing a lot. You can see these cartridges spread out. Some of the men were probably killed in action, and as they're firing so much out here, Confederates actually have to take those Enfield muskets and ram them against that stone wall so that they could lodge the bullets. And sometimes they couldn't get that ramrod out. They'll fire it downrange, ramrod and all. You'll also notice out here other things like hats, a slouch hat from another soldier that was here. But you'll notice the spacing of these soldiers who met their untimely demise here at Fredericksburg. They're at least 3 yards apart. These men were so thinly spread here that there was a Confederate every 3 yards. It's not enough to stand up against this Union tide that came against them. In the distance, you'll notice a house. This was a neighborhood. I mentioned the Stevens house. I mentioned the Innes house. That would be the Hall house. The Hall house was a 2.5-story wooden structure owned by Joseph Hall, and had only been constructed in 1859. But it's so riddled with bullets that it has to be taken down because of these 2 battles. You might see the open plain behind us where more Union assaults took place in December of 1862 and May of 1863. In fact, Mercer Square, the original agricultural fairgrounds, once sat right near us. Fredericksburg boasts one of the oldest agricultural fairs in the United States. And of course, you have this road itself. Remember, this was an active roadway. It was the I-95 of its day. It would lead you 50 miles north of Washington and 55 miles south down to Richmond. And that's exactly why these 2 armies come through here over an 18-month period. Washington is the United States capital. Richmond is the Confederate capital. But in May of 1863, this picture was taken by Andrew Russell, a photographer who came here a mere few hours after the Second Battle of Fredericksburg, after Union forces came through here, took this stone wall, seized the road, carried Maurice Heights, and moved on to a place called Salem Church.
They do a great job. How about that, Michelle?
Oh, they do. I am a member of American Battlefield Trust. They
I love it.
Amazing. And what the modern technology now in the videos that they do on YouTube are fantastic. And they are also now in the process of helping preserve Revolutionary War battlefields and War of 1812 battlefields, which are the forgotten two in historic preservation, especially the War of 1812 battlefields.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like I said, when we were doing the Liberty, Lynn was with me through that. We did a whole series. I think we did 7 episodes. We went through the wonderful documentary Liberty, which does, it takes you from the Green Dragon and the whispers under the elm tree there at the Boston Common, all the way through. We went to the Washington Spies and Turn and that whole thing, and we went through the whole shebang. And we forget about the people. We forget that George Washington had an anger problem, and one of his big thing was trying to keep that monster down. And he was so good strategically. And history forgets what a cheeky monkey he was. I mean, if he wasn't that kind of guy to do those things, I can picture him now being, when they took over in Brooklyn, and he was on the last ship out, and he's just waving, as he pulls off into the fog. I love it. Bye. And I think I love it.
Like the ending of 1980s movie. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Fantastic. With my finger. Bye.
All of the personal, the stories. There's so many stories, out of Fredericksburg and everything else. And before I ask Michelle to tell us some of her favorite ghost stories, we don't want to give away the whole book, because we absolutely want you to get it, because again, the warm fireplace fires, the campfires, go and camp and, listen, these are great for this. And if you have a paranormal, someone who enjoys ghost stories and things like that, get one of Lynn's, one of Michelle's, put them in their stocking, because again, hey, if you lose electricity, there's nothing like a good ghost story by candlelight. You can keep the whole house entertained, and get through the hard times by getting together and learning history and ghost stories at the same time. And in Lynn's case, she got a house that was so haunted she couldn't move in. So we've got you covered on both ends. Okay, so Lynn, what did you want? Anything you wanted to say up until this point of things that Michelle has mentioned, or you want to just get into some good ghost stories? What are you thinking over there? You're muted, sweetie. Lynn, are you there? Did we lose her? She might not be there. She might have went to get tea. Either way, what's some of your favorite stories from the books? Give us some teasers.
Some of my favorites, the Rising Sun Tavern, which is one of our sister museums. We talk about the rollicking ghosts there that like to do all sorts of mischief, from knocking things over to occasionally staff will hear what sounds like glass being broken, and they walk into the room and they can't find it being broken.
That's amazing. That psychological
story where he actually heard, like, what he thought that the manager at the time was pranking him. That he heard this kind of as he described it, a B movie canned laughter coming out of the speakers, and the manager at the time would not have done that. So this kind of that prankiness. I also talk about the Mary Washington house where I work at, some of the funny things that have happened there.
Wonderful.
My funniest one is a paranormal investigator was doing the Estes method, and she had her headphones on and her face mask on, and the other paranormal investigator had trigger objects, which included little cat toys.
Okay.
And he went to say, you can move this and the light will come on. And the paranormal investigator says, I am not a cat. Very indignantly, I am not a cat.
I am not a cat.
There's a pause, and then she goes, don't say meow. And it turns out the other paranormal investigator, her partner, was going to go meow. And she goes, so she said that when she heard, it was a female voice saying, I am not a cat. And then the don't say meow. And then she heard, like, it was a laughter afterwards of don't say meow, and then laughed.
And then a laugh. Now that tells you several things. There's a lot to unpack there. So first of all, the ghost or spirit, let's just say spirit at this time, because again, when you speak of them, I kind of pick up a little of the energy, and I think would probably agree with me when I said I don't think the ghosts that you deal with in your museum in this house are stuck. I think they're visiting
no,
because they're coming and going. I will.
we have times where it's weeks without anything. And then it's getting near fall. It's getting near spooky season. It gets a little bit more active. I joke in the summertime, they're just too darn hot because we're all hot. And they're just like, I'm too hot.
You're too darn hot, honey.
I'm too hot. I'm too hot.
I know. And that whole era would be that way. It's just, they're very, I think it's great that they joked with you, but I also love the fact that she could pick up telepathically what the person was thinking and getting ready to do, saying meow.
Yeah, don't say meow.
That says so much.
First off, I'm not a cat, so I'm not going to be batting my little paws on this little ball.
And I'm not a circus monkey kind of thing. And you get that a lot with ghosts. And I think it's all about respect too. You're going to get so much more. It's not just the intent, but it's the respect. And I think that's probably, they can tell that about you. They can tell that about Lynn and so many of these wonderful paranormal investigators out here that go at it that way. Then
the other one that's touching that I talk about is, again, unfortunately, we have the history of enslaved people on the property. There was
yes, it's history. It's history. It happened
on the property until 1865. We'll have enslaved peoples. And we're in the section of the house that we believed was the original kitchen, which would have been part of the house in 1759. So it would have been the section that Mary Washington's kitchen would have been. She lives in the house from 1772 until her death in 1789. In fact, this is the oldest section of the house over here, is where Mary actually lived. This section was added on later. This is a very difficult house to photograph. And then the kitchen would be all the way over here.
Over there.
So there's another section. So over here where we enter is where we think the kitchen was. And in fact, in the next year or so, we're going to do some more testing on the wood in this part of the kitchen to see if we can actually get a date line.
Interesting.
And so I had a paranormal investigation group in the house. And the house is also it's very difficult to investigate in because yes, it's big, but also sound travels really easy.
Okay.
So I also make a rule: if you're investigating my property, I'm the manager. You're not going to investigate alone. I've had groups where they didn't like that and they didn't come and investigate. So sad. So
my sister says the same thing because there's so many things in there she's responsible for as well.
I told one of them, I says, you're going to be near items that belong to the Washington family. I am not going to leave you in a room with them. That's just, it's
understandable. It's understandable.
I am always with them when they investigate. And my mom will come to we live together and with my parents. And so my mom comes. And so she'll be on we'll split them up and so she'll sit on one end with them and also with the other. So I was with them in the main part of the house. And so she's with them in the kitchen house, which is now
just far off. Yeah.
And apparently this one group was not asking the most intelligent of questions. And so finally mom gets tired. And so she just says, I thank you. She's just writing to the slave workers. And she goes, I thank you so much for all the hard work you did, that you cared for Mary, that you had to take care of her through her illness. And
respect.
You had to take care of her through the war. I know it hadn't been easy. I know it wasn't easy what happened to you after, just this. Thank you so much. You're appreciated. And through the echo box came back. Thank you.
Wonderful. Beautiful. And just a little respect. And that's it, and so many, paranormal groups just trying to find out, and I don't mean to bash paranormal groups. I know that's like a very broad brush, but I mean, everybody from the 10-year-old with his, smartphone out there recording stuff and to the people like Steve Stockton that were out recording with the reel-to-reel when he was a kid 50 years ago, whatever. I mean, it's just everything's included in that. We all want to know. We all want to, questions answered. But I think it's so important to understand that when you get to this point in our lives where we get it, we have that respect for the history. We understand that we can't change it. We have to accept it as it was and tell the truth about it, unaltered. That was my big thing with when I was doing Liberty and the Revolutionary War. It's like, why are they changing it? It's fascinating the way it was.
Yeah.
Why are you changing it? You know, and I think that's so important.
2 episodes a turn. And I'm like, no, I can't do this.
Yeah.
Oh God.
It's so true. It's so
Second
true.
episode when they're putting the guy in the pickle and the dead guy in the pickle jar, not the pickle jar, but they're brining him. And it was just true. But it's like, this didn't happen. This love triangle didn't happen.
You know, and just like I said, the truth is so important. And once you get on the truth, and I think, I know it sounds funny, but I'm always trying to look at the vantage point of the ghost. You know, if I was a ghost and I could only communicate a little bit, what would help me communicate? What would help me get through whatever I'm going through on this part of my journey? Because so many go through whatever they're going through over, let's say, the other side, and come back to help others. You know, we're finding that so much and finding that now in so many of these wonderful properties like you've been involved with, where they're saving history on the property. They're not really exploiting, like saying the Lizzie Borden house or something along those lines, where you're really getting that negative energy coming in all the time.
I could not.
I
went through there once. That place about made me sick.
Yeah,
I thought I wasn't going to be able to finish the tour. I'm in the parlor going, this place is claustrophobic. I don't know what happened.
It's heavy energy.
Anybody could live in that house. That was the most claustrophobic. And I've been in small houses. I've been in old houses. I could not stand that house.
It's so true. It's so true.
And in the house of the Seven Gables, I'm claustrophobic. I'm going up the hidden staircase just to say that I did it, so I can buy the magnet that says I went up the hidden staircase.
I went
I'm in the house. I'm fine. I'm in the Lizzie Borden house. I'm like, get me out of here. This house is nuts. This family is nuts. I don't know.
So true. It's so true. But here's the thing, Michelle, and you'll understand this.
I think she knew. I think she knew who did it. I don't think she did it. But
I don't either. I did it again. I did a whole thing on her. I think 6 or 7 episodes. Yeah, 3 hours a piece.
Of blood evidence on her. There's no. I know too much about Victorian clothing. There's no way that she could have done that.
And they tried to push off
in and out of her clothing and change.
Right. And there was one about, you may have heard this, I want to say within the last 10 years, that they tried to put out that she was wearing a gossamer, like like almost like a butterfly net for people, like a silky kind of BS. Michelle's right there with me. Everybody that I've talked to that knows says that she might have known.
Oh, she.
I think that uncle and that brother, that half brother, because look, they find him hanging in the tree in the park after. Nobody ever talks about that. There were so many connections there that, like I said, I think she kept her mouth shut. I think there was a little payoff, maybe somewhere along the lines. But the disgusting part to me is what you mentioned, Michelle, is when you walk into that place, you can feel it. And I won't go in, like say the Gettysburg Orphanage. I won't do it. Not until somebody goes in there with me and we're doing it to help. There's this overpowering. I'm not empath. Kids, animals.
Once, and I actually found that nothing.
You didn't find it?
There, I have a lot of questions about the Gettysburg Orphanage and how it's been, portrayed.
Yeah.
For me, it's the Ginny Waite house. And I know a lot of people find the Ginny Waite house boring.
Isn't that funny? Me too.
Ginny Waite house.
Me too. I didn't have any problem at the Farnsworth till I started going upstairs. And I felt like it was just, again, the whole thing about it that I wanted to tell you is that the Lizzie Borden house, what I have heard from mediums that I trust very much, it'll be wiser than I will ever know, and the abilities that are honed and exercised, it's amazing. They've gone in there and said, look, she's gone. Lizzie's not there. What is there is the creative of this energy and this negative that everybody keeps bringing up. The energy that was left behind by her and the trauma she went through in her life. Let's just leave it there and say that. Yeah. And the echoes of these people going in drudging. Like when Amy Allen walked in there, she said there's a Ouija board behind the couch. They're tired of being tortured. The spirits are tired of being tortured in this house.
I think she's
similar.
And I've heard enough people that I've respected that she's there. And there's another medium, I don't remember her name, but she used to be on the show Spooky South Coast radio show, which is really,
yes,
really great. And she said the one and only time she ever ran into Lizzie Borden was when she went in there to do an investigation, and Lizzie walked in and says, "You're pregnant, you're not coming in here." And she had explained to her, she hadn't even announced to her team yet that she was expecting.
And she knew.
And Lizzie,
the telepathic thing again.
They're like really up in front of her. It's like, "You're pregnant. You and the baby are not coming in here."
Wow.
And she goes, my opinion of Lizzie Borden changed after that because she is not a mass murderer. If she's coming in there saying you were pregnant, you and the baby need to get out right now.
She's not. I think it's this thing, this almost like a poltergeist, an energy manifestation of this, and all this negative energy that almost can create its own entity, really. You know what I mean? It becomes almost a thing. Yeah.
You donated money to the version of not the ASPCA, but the early version of it. And apparently she had a deal with the shelter that any dog that was sick or injured, she would take care of it, and she nursed a lot of them back.
100% true, folks.
And they said that she didn't interact with a lot of people, but like the person that was the coal shoveler, bringing the coal delivery man, which is a really hot and dirty, nasty job. When he would deliver the coal, he would go down the basement, and she would always have the payment for him and a generous slice of chocolate cake and cool milk waiting for him on the steps.
Oh, isn't that nice? So she was a
nice refreshing drink and a generous slice of chocolate cake waiting for him.
Mm-hmm. And you know what the question is? I know we're Lizzie Borden, but this is so interesting. Lynn, if you're there, chime in anytime, honey. But if you're not and you're resting your head or whatever, just do whatever you want to do. I just want to let you. Okay. If you have any questions, jump in. It's so interesting. But jump in if you have any questions. Go ahead.
No, I'm good. I'm just enthralled listening.
You're just listening.
And I totally agree that she didn't do it. And during the hearing, she was drugged. So,
she was
there's a lot more to the story, and
so
much. She was high as a kite when they were interviewing her for the police. They doped her up. She was doped up, and the only amount of blood they ever found in her clothing was smaller than a pinhead, and it was her menstrual cycle.
Menstrual blood.
Her period when it happened.
Yeah, there was one tiny dot on the inside of it. And again, all the stuff that they try to listen. Go watch my episode.
And for a Victorian woman to have to acknowledge that she was having her menstrual cycle.
Oh, it was horrendous.
My God, that would have been like as embarrassing as it is, for a spinster woman to acknowledge. And also, Sam Baltrusis is another
in front of all those men in that court.
Hollow is amazing. He has actually found evidence that Lizzie both of her hands were badly bruised. She almost got them broken a couple of weeks before that, an accident with a dumbwaiter at her church. There's actually good suspicion that she may not have had the strength
to hold anything, to do anything,
to do a very physical, demanding murder. And because you're hitting bone, it's going to hurt on your hands. She may not have had actually the strength, because she was putting plates in a dumbwaiter, and the dumbwaiter came down and collapsed down on her, and they thought that she had both of her hands were broken. And so it was badly bruised. So she may not have even had the physical strength in her hands to have even done that.
It's so true. So true. And these are the facts that people just throw out. And
this is Sam Baltrusis, who's actually a distant cousin of Lizzie, that he just found out within the last 5 years. That he found a newspaper article where they reported this, and it was like 2 weeks before the murder. So she was actually nursing, and it was like her hands all the way up to her forearm, both hands were bruised.
Just
so
messed
she
up.
Actually may not have.
And at the same time, what about Michelle? I may get the numbers wrong on this, but I think 11 blocks away, while Lizzie's locked up in the jail, there was another murder done by an axe. They blamed it on an immigrant, which is they did this a lot. People coming, transient coming off the train and in and out and off the train. They blamed him. And the whole thing that got him convicted was a quarter. It was a coin that may have been stolen from the house where this daytime axe murder happened in the house. And I think her defense attorney brought up that, did she do this one too while she was locked up in the jail? I think he even put that towards, in the trial itself. You can read it in the transcripts because
I think it's fascinating.
It's incredible.
They have the Fall River Historical Society has the attorney's diaries, which cannot be disclosed because of client
attorney privilege,
but apparently from those who have seen them, it's pretty
interesting. I can bet. I just know she didn't do it. And people say, well, then why did she stay? Now, let me ask you this question. As with all of the experience you've had studying, history and women of that period, I'm always getting thrown at me, then why did she stay in the town? And I always say, to me, they say, did she stay there because she grew up there and didn't know where else to go? That's what she was familiar with. Or did she go to the top of the hill to say, screw them all and look down on them? And I think there's a little bit of both, but I think she felt in that time period in the thinking that if she left, it would almost say she was guilty.
Well,
in her mind. What do you think?
An interview I've heard from a friend of hers after she died that they acknowledged some of the private conversations, and that she didn't go to, and she never talked about the homicides, but she talked a little bit about the after. And apparently, to one of her friends, she did disclose that she wanted to stay in town because she believed in her heart of hearts someday the truth would come out, and she wanted to look the people in the eye who blamed her and said, "See, I told you." I told you I didn't do it.
Wow, I love that.
You know, someday I will be vindicated in this town, and I will be able to walk down the street again and say, "See, I told you."
Right. Now, she did do a lot of traveling and things like that, and I didn't want to make this all about Lizzie, but it's so interesting to talk to you about it. She did a lot of traveling. We know she was involved. She loved the theater, and she had that whole little whatever with the, and who cares. But the whole thing was she'd leave a little bit and travel and come back. And the animals, you have to understand how much she loved these animals and everything, and what she did do for the town, kind of behind the scenes. She really was something else. And to just take her house and just make it all about where people go in and get their picture taken on a replica couch. That is not the couch, guys.
Well, it's worse than, because I visited in 2009.
Horrid.
It's worse now.
Is it
the axe throwing? The axe throwing. I'm sure that.
Oh no.
I'm sure that's
to exploit these people. And the Villisca Axe Murder House, same way. We had Dr. Epperly on here. We did a whole big, episode block on that.
Winchester Mystery House. Let's pose with a gun, and that's not the whole truth on the Winchester Mystery House. She was actually she wasn't. Read Leanna Renee Heber's the Visible History, the Hidden History of Invisible Women, about female ghosts, and she talks about how Sarah Winchester wasn't a spiritualist. She was an amateur architect. That was her passion.
Wow.
And so the Winchester Mystery House is a Victorian woman with infinite funds who lost her baby, has no children, and it's basically her playhouse. She gets to indulge in her passion for architecture and to build and
keep building.
Building and looking at the latest trends and go, ooh, because she would get all these architectural journals and like, ooh, well, that turret looks nice. Let's try it here.
Yeah. And just, and again,
there was a woman who lived that was very shy, very quiet, very private. And so that was her joy, was architecture.
And she had money, and she had again,
disposable income. And she was she was very good to her servants at a time period where it wasn't expected. She made sure the children of her servants went to school. She made sure that there was child labor before child labor laws. She made sure that they got education. She paid them daily the higher rate than was expected for the time period. She made sure that the local children could come and play in her gardens.
Wow. And stuff you never hear about too. I know when you and I talked about haunted the White House in Washington and all that, we touched on, and we both laughed because I said, well, Mary Washington, she's batshit crazy. But it was so easy for her. She came by it honest. Let's put it that way. What she went through and how she came up and how she was raised and, in the household she was in and everything else. It all goes to build the character of the person. And again, if you understand that, you can deal better with ghosts as well. Because like we said, they're just human beings in need of help, like Hans Holzer said. So with Mary, again, this is very similar to the Winchester, because when you have that kind of money, when you have that kind of clout, it's so easy to hide it. And if you have that kind of thing, if you are Lizzie Borden and the Winchester House and some of these others and Mary Lincoln, we can look back now and go, okay, that's very eccentric behavior, or it's, whatever we want to label we want to put on it now. But again, they come back like the ghost of Dolly Madison, and how she portrays herself. Like we all have heard the stories of her, shushing off workers in the rose garden, and she come out like, no, we're not having that.
Edith Wilson was going to have it torn up.
And to come out and that, nope, 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 we're not doing that. It means something to them in life, it means it to them in death. And I think you're probably seeing a lot of that in the house you're in too, because
Yeah.
I was just got done talking to Eric from Unseen
We've had
Paranormal.
psychics
Same
have
thing
come
in his
through.
house.
We've had psychics that come through and said that Mary has that when Mary's, I'm not saying that she's haunting it all the time. No, she's not.
Right.
That her essence or whatever was there at the moment that we've had a paranormal investigator or a psychic in, that at that moment she is complaining about that the house doesn't, her area of the house doesn't look the way it looked during her time period. And Mary was very particular on how she ran her house and how her house was designed and how her daily behavior. Apparently, according to the neighbors, Mary Washington, they knew what time she would have her dinner because she would go onto the porch and ring her dinner bell for her enslaved workers. Mm-hmm. So Mary was very rigid in her and how she ran her house and was used to having her house being a particular way. And apparently, what she sees today is the way the house looks today. And a couple times she's complained that the house doesn't look the same, and it's like, sorry, I can't get it changed. We're going to reinterpret and have better signage of where her door used to be, but we can't put your original door back. I'm sorry.
Wow.
You're gonna have to work with us.
Wow. We just had one, Eric, I'll have to hook you up with Eric because you guys would love to talk to each other, because he just bought a house called the Night House in right outside of Kentucky, right outside of Hopkinsville, where the goblins were. That famous story about the goblins. So he's got a house there. Same thing is happening with him. The lady of the house has come to him and, in a welcoming way. They're refurbishing it. They know that they're going to breathe life back into this house that was neglected. So right out of the gate, they're starting on the right foot. And he's also trying to do the, which I think is wonderful, research on it to get the period wallpaper, the wallpaper that would have been back in the day. I mean, he's very intricate in these things. And as I'm talking to him on the phone, I'm getting, because he's giving me his energy, I'm reading them on that energy. And I'm saying, all right, I can't, they're not going to let me go. What is this with a yellow daisy with the orange center, the yellow daisy with the orange center? And he's laughing because Eric's used to that with me, and we're back and forth, and he's got it too. So we're on, like we are tonight. You can just feel the energy, right? So he says, wait a minute, I know exactly what you're talking about. I said, they're showing me like this yellow daisy, orange center, and it's kind of bent funny. And I don't know if it's a picture that was on a wall or they want the picture to put back or something about it's got to move or it's been moved. And he said, hold on, let me send you a picture. He sends me a picture, and it's old linoleum from 1928, I think. And it was up in the upstairs bathroom, and he took sheetrock and stuff down. This is all underneath. And he cut a piece out of it and was going to frame this piece and put it on the wall. He had it in his hands 2 days before. Mm-hmm. So whoever is in the house, the lady of that household is coming through, knew I would listen, told me to tell him that she saw him do that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Just like your story. It's an amazing thing. And I think it's happening a lot, Michelle. I think that they're starting to see, the historians, the people get a new appreciation for looking back at that. We're all going through a lot right now, and we are getting that nostalgic feel, like even times of Halloween and spooky season. I think that's one of the draws, is to go back and hear those stories, the Sleepy Hollows and the different stories like that. I think it's wonderful. So we're headed out the door here really soon. I would love to hear a story that you'd just like to share with us, that something that maybe enriched your understanding of ghosts, and something that changed your mind, or just what made you go, wow, what was that for you?
Well, and is it for my book, and it's where I was bringing a new dimension and a new light to the legend of the White Lady of Chatham. And Chatham Plantation, it dates to the colonial era, and during the Civil War, it was also used as a hospital, and now it's part of the National Park Service. And and the National Park Service does not acknowledge that any of their properties are haunted, and that I completely understand why. And one of the legends, and it probably would drive them crazy, was that every 7 years a white woman would be seen pacing, walking out in the garden. They used to call the Ghost Walk out in Chatham, and in the early 20th century, there was this story that was published, and it was repeated in ghost books, that she was a English woman who had fallen in love with a servant, or a man of the serving class. He was a dry salter, which was somebody that was involved in taxidermy, and her parrot had died, and he preserved her parrot, and they had fallen in love, and they were going to elope in England, and they're going to elope, and her father, who was a academic, found out about it and broke him up, took her to Virginia. This is the colonial era, to find a wealthy man in the colonies to marry. And apparently, according to the legend, her boyfriend, her lover, finds her all the way in at Chatham Plantation in Fredericksburg, and they are going to elope again from Chatham. And George Washington, the founder of our country, but the killer of dreams, supposedly finds out about this and doesn't want them to elope, and so has the lover locked up in a shed, and catches the gal as she's climbing out of the upstairs bedroom, and turns her over to her father. Her father takes her back to England and marries.
Oh man.
Dude. She's married. She has 10 children, but she never really loved her husband, but she loved her children. And on her deathbed, she said, "I'll go back to, where I last saw my true love every 7 years." And she dies on, I believe, June 20th or June 20th.
Wow.
Summer solstice. So supposedly every 7 years, this woman in white is seen at Chatham, and the last time she was supposed to be, her last on the 7-year cycle was 2020. But how much historical backing can I find in the story? Zero. Zip. Nada. It comes up from the early 20th century, when people were buying historic properties, and especially in Virginia, in the plantations, and they were trying to preserve them. And one way to preserve properties in this time period, in the early 20th century, as people were starting to go on vacation, was to create ghost stories, or have ghost stories.
Wow.
In travel books, because one of the reasons colonial Williamsburg was saved is because the pastor and the residents of Williamsburg believed that their houses were haunted.
Wow.
And that one way to encounter the past was by seeing a ghost. So these places are worth saving because George Washington was here, and if you're really, really lucky, you're going to see his ghost. So we need to save these to look exactly the way that they were, because the history comes alive and ghosts come alive. In fact, the man, Dr. W.A.R. Goodwin, who convinced Rockefeller to buy colonial Williamsburg, wrote in his diary, he used to live in the Wythe House, and he writes, "This place is haunted. I hear ghosts here all the time. We need to save these." But
wonderful.
So there's no truth to a lover or woman being separated from her true love, but there were reports of a woman in white being seen on the property. And one of the earliest travel logs, they say, "We don't know why she's here. We're seeing a woman in white." You go back to the history of Chatham before the Civil War. There was a woman who owned Chatham. She inherited it from her father. Her daughter was disabled. Daughter didn't marry, so she was going to make sure her daughter was taken care of. When she died, she wrote in her will that her enslaved peoples were to be free. They were either allowed to pick who they wanted their new owners to be, or they were to be given money and be sent to the free state of Ohio to build up their life and be free. She put that in her will in the 1850s.
Wow.
Her half-sister's husband challenged the will, had the will blocked. They took it to the Virginia Supreme Court. In fact, the local Stafford court said, no, she put this in her will. She was of sound mind when she wrote her will. Her will be followed. Lacey said, oh, heck no, it's not. took it to the Virginia Supreme Court. Virginia Supreme Court said, no, she can't do that. It's against Virginia law to free enslaved workers. Because technically it was.
At the time.
Free workers in Virginia in the 1850s could not reside in the state of Virginia. They had to immediately leave out of Virginia. So they put it on the caveat that enslaved workers could not pick who their new owners would be, and they could not reside in the state of Virginia. And so the Commonwealth of Virginia. So the will was null and void. And he purchases the estate, he purchases the house, he purchases the enslaved workers. So these people are robbed of their freedom. This woman's will was not followed. There is one woman, she was a laundress. She actually was able to, she made herself a nuisance, God bless her, and she was able to fight the system and was able to get, was actually allowed to, she was actually sold to another owner. And the owner felt, and the slaver thought that she was given a raw deal and was moved by her plight and allowed her to go on pass to the free states, where she was able to lecture and was able to raise enough money that she was able to go in to buy her family, and went to Ohio and opened up a laundry business. And her family still lives in Ohio to this day. They can trace their descent.
Wonderful.
So we have actually this story, and I argue, is that the woman whose will was challenged in her last will and testament, is she the white woman of Chatham coming back to say, this was wrong, my will, my saying, I wanted this in here and now in this, and my will was again because of greed and greed and prejudice and racism was blocked. And so I'm wondering, is she the white woman of Chatham that comes back?
I would say yes. You got my vote.
She was ticked off.
It makes sense because it takes that kind of burst of energy.
Last year, she dies mid 1850s, and it's like, my will wasn't followed.
I agree.
Woman, and
I agree. And so
saying,
many like that, Michelle, where their last will and testament was not followed. There's so many ghost stories that come back. I want it fixed. I want it to be my will to be known. And I
because it only takes the Civil War for the enslaved workers at Chatham to receive their freedom, and the slavery.
It's a strong thing.
Chatham was bloody. It's one of the worst. It's horrific. 1812, there was a rebellion, a mini rebellion uprising started at Chatham that was brutally ended, and involving one of the escaped enslaved workers drowning in the Rappahannock River. And part of the reason that the uprising happened was their holiday was shortened. They were in Christmas time in this time period, in the antebellum period, between Christmas and New Year's, was a time period where, especially for the enslaved workers who worked in the fields, they were to actually have time off. They were to have time to be with their families, to enjoy the season. But the owners of the property were so in debt, they decided to shorten down their holiday and to tell them to immediately go to work after Christmas. And the enslaved workers rebelled against that, tied up the overseer and beat him. Beat him up with the whip that he was using to beat them.
Oh man!
And the overseer escapes, goes into Aquia and gets a posse, and in the process of something, because the enslaved workers know it's not going to end well for them, several of them try to swim across the river, and one of them drowns. And then one or two are executed, they're hanged, and then the rest were sent down to the Mississippi, Louisiana, to the sugar colonies, where sugar plantations, where they died very shortly after being down there.
Oh my gosh!
So
and the truth is so much stronger.
And it's also things that, because the National Park Service focuses strictly on the Civil War instead of strictly as a Civil War hospital, a lot of the National Park Service are reinterpreting their sites. Somehow Chatham has slipped through the cracks, and it's very outdated interpretation at Chatham, and they don't talk about this part of the history. They're not talking about enslaved people's history very much at Chatham. So it's a side that also that needs to be reinterpreted and to talk about the uprising, to talk about the 1850s history.
I think that's wonderful. And I think I agree with you 100% that it's probably that lady. And again, I think that's one of the things I like to bring out on this show when we talk about these things too, is don't just go in there assuming that you're talking to Joe who got killed in the tractor accident in the front yard. It's probably not Joe, and it could be somebody you brought with, somebody drawn to the property, somebody brought, I think it's wonderful what you're doing and that you're taking the time to find the humanity of, in the truth and reset that and to make sure that the truth gets out there. I think it's wonderful. I can't wait till you come back again. Is there anything you'd like to say before we go to share with you again? That book is on Amazon. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, and if you're in the Fredericksburg area, October 19th is a Saturday. I will be having a book signing at our Barnes and Nobles. It's in the shopping center in Central Park, and it is also haunted. It's also mentioned in the book. The kids book section is haunted by two ghosts.
There you go. Now, is that for real, or are they just trying to save that building by saying a ghost around? I'm joking.
They used to call her the Borders ghost because it used to be a Borders, and
You're right.
They would have a female say good morning and good night, and then they had a paranormal investigation, and it's two people, it's a man and a woman, and because that was farmland. It was before it became the shopping center.
Right.
It was farmland.
It's just like the Toys R Us ghost with Yanni. It was farmland, and he killed himself accidentally. If you don't know the story of the Toys R Us ghost, it was Yanni. He loved the lady of the house who didn't even know he was alive. He cut his leg, died of obvious infection, and he's now at the Toys R Us that used to be there. I don't know what's there now, probably condos. But this has been absolutely delightful. Lynn, did you want to add anything before we go tonight? We check out and we'll talk a little bit about some hurricane relief coming up here too. I hope everybody in your area is okay, Michelle. Everybody good?
We're fortunate. We're
safe and good.
We're not near the Blue Ridge Mountains.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness.
Virginia dodged the bullet on this one.
Very fortunate. Very fortunate. Lynn, anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, it was a pleasure meeting you. This was very interesting. I really enjoyed it, and I hope to get to meet you sometime in person.
Me too.
Absolutely. We're all going to, either be at the bash or one of these because we're all real close. I'm hoping to real soon move out in that area myself. So I don't know if I'm going to be, right where all this stuff is going on. I don't know. I mean, half of me just wants to pack everything I have and go out there and help them, everybody rebuild. But, where do you go? What do you do? So we're going to see if we can sort some of that. Yeah. Thank you so much, Michelle. I'm going to say goodnight to you. And the chat just absolutely love it. Throw bacon at her as she goes out of the room. And thank you for your time tonight. Woo-hoo. And don't forget, Michelle Hamilton on Amazon. Get the books. We're going to have you back real soon, sweetie. Have a good evening.
You too.
Good night, darling. Thanks for coming on.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so Lynn, go ahead, baby.
Sorry, I'm going to remind you to subscribe, hit the thumbs up, and not to forget to click on the notification bell for the rhythms. You were speaking of the mountains and like moving out over towards Virginia is towards the mountains there. And the thing that was odd about this Helene that came through is that it was supposedly spurring off tornadoes in the mountains. That is like unheard of.
I know they weren't ready. They didn't think about it. It's like telling people in Miami to prepare for a blizzard and everybody just laughs and says, "Oh, we're fine." Listen, we have to be Lynn and I talked about this, been moved on and off all week. We have to be so careful as we say things, allegedly this, allegedly. I am going to be so precise in the things that I'm going to put out there for you guys. So go ahead, Lynn. I just wanted to say we're saying certain things. We're hesitating on certain words, and there's a reason for that. And I wish there wasn't in America, but here we go. Go ahead, Lynn.
Especially when we're talking about something that sounds like Lima with an F in the front. We'll just call it an F-bomb so that everybody
put a big F in the front.
A big F in the front, that we're talking about Lima with an F in the front. So that you're aware of some of the things that are kind of going on behind the scene, so we can speak that word in code. for that matter.
I think people, let's put it this way. I'm going to say something. I think people expected a lot more with everything that's been going on in the past couple of years, you know, from certain, let's just say, supposedly trusted organizations. I've been telling everybody, please do not put your dollar in the can with the big red cross on it. Please do not donate to
United
some
Way,
of these
yes,
other
that's
standard.
yeah.
We have people that we trust, and when I say I trust them, and I've talked to Lynn about this extensively, it's because I've watched them for years. I either know them intimately or I know enough of them that I've watched them through a crisis, or know other people that have been, you know, toe to toe with them. And I've seen the receipts, I've seen the results. And I know, I can tell you, you know, the new ones that I'm getting to know now are Samaritan's Purse. I'm getting to know a little bit more about the Cajun Navy. I am getting to see a little bit more how they act in adversity and who they stand up for. And it is the ordinary American. I'm again being so careful here. I am seeing certain places where the enforcement that's on the ground, that would be your locals, some are kicking in and doing great things, and some are absent. And that goes from the top down.
The ones that are absent are the ones that should be there, and they're not.
Oh, yeah. So again, we're talking top down. So imagine what I mean by each state being a pyramid, and the top of that pyramid. Okay. So why is the top of some pyramids, such as, like, say, our southern state in Florida, willing to reach out to other states and go, what do you need? Because I don't see anybody doing anything. We've got those kind of problems. We've got so many different kind of things going on. So I'm being very careful in who I highlight and who I tell you, you know, if you want to help. Lynn and I have some ideas. And I just want to reiterate too, that when we showed Liberty, we knew, you know,
Yes.
come on, we're getting downloads like crazy here. And I wanted to put out there and give you so many different examples of people going through strenuous times, upside down. The curtain has come back. Hell, baby, that curtain fell off of Oz. I see all the shit behind there now. And, you know, I've been seeing it for 30 years.
Right.
I've been seeing it for 30 years. So here's the deal. We're on our own. And
that's for sure.
But we're many. So
yes,
you're not alone. You're just realizing what big group you belong to. And that is the group of Americans that this place was built upon, that will look, I'm not asking you what color you are, what you doing, anything else. You need water, your babies need a sandwich. We got to get you some coats, honey, because cold is coming. And we know you're not alone. You're not abandoned. We got help is on the way. So that's what we wanted to say tonight. And understand that we are not going to stop until every single child up there is in a safe place, and every person has, you know, their communications, whatever they're planning on doing. Because what's happening is they're not getting any help, and now they have, look, their jobs are gone. We're talking about whole towns completely wiped off the face of the earth. Topography changed forever.
Yes,
forever.
I sent Cisco some pictures of a main street of Chimney Rock, and there are no buildings. It's just a muddy. The only thing that's the same is the scenery in the back of the trees and the mountains. All of the buildings are gone. The road is gone. It's just a big mudslide. They're still pulling bodies out of the mud, and the odor of dead body just reeks through the air. It's just a huge, huge mess. It's so sad. And the people that are helping are the people like us. They're jumping in, boots on the ground, rolling up their sleeves and doing what needs to be done. And even the smallest thing, everything matters and counts. If you go through your closet and you've got shoes that you haven't worn that you were going to give to Goodwill anyway. Make sure that they're clean, people. You know, the thing about giving people things or not giving people things that you wouldn't want and that nobody else would want either, but to give them things that maybe you don't want that might still have a price tag on it, or that you've only worn a couple of times so that they're still in good condition. I recently went to and I'm saying this because I recently went to a church on Friday that was giving out food, and I was collecting food for my neighborhood as well. And I noticed that the truck that came is called Fishes and Loaves. They go to all of the stores and pick up the stuff that expires either that day or the following day. And they deliver it to these places that are food banks. And these people, it was at a church, and they had their family and all of their church members come and pick through all of the food. And some of these people were lawyers and people that had 2 income, you know, that weren't adversely affected from where they were living, picked through all of it, and then ended up giving what was left over to the people that had been sitting in line for hours of bruised up bananas and things like that. And that's not the way it's supposed to work. You know, the food was donated for the people sitting in line, not the people giving it out. Not that the people giving it out shouldn't get something too, but it's one thing if you're giving it out and working the line. It's another thing when you call your whole neighborhood to come and fill their box and pick it up before you give it out to the people sitting in line. So, you know, there's a lot of that.
I'm just grabbing a couple things, girl. You go ahead, let them have it. Go ahead. You know, I'm just saying, I mean, that's the thing. So again, I wanted to come back and, you know, not to jump all over the place, but Lynn and I have some ideas and we're going to bring those to you in the future. We're trying to get an idea of how to best get the help that we can give. Look, you know, a lot of us don't have $5. That's not what I'm saying. If all you can do is share the info out, what I've been doing since this hurricane hit is just connecting. Where are you? You know, what's available for you to use? You know, obviously you're talking on a cell phone, or are you standing on top of your roof with a bar? You know, how long do we have this connection? You know, are you able to get to a local place like a high school or where, you know, a hospital, you know, whatever it may be, because there was certain people on the ground with immediate help, but they had to get to that central location. We help people hook up in multiple counties, multiple states using that method, also getting them connected to repeaters for ham radios to get communications out there, well checks. You can send, you know, connect into your county and make sure people know that. If you don't have communication, go to the dollar store, get some, you know, poster board, some dry erase board, whatever, $1 a sheet, whatever. And write, you know, put the numbers on there. Hey, if you need assistance, this is a good place to go. Because in some states and in some counties, help is being blocked. Yes, it's true.
It is true.
I can't tell you. I'm not going to spend hours telling you why tonight, why I believe this is happening. It's not allegedly. It is happening. And it is mostly in North Carolina. In Tennessee, I think we've got it under control. What's happening there is there seems to be an issue in the areas where they had a lot of supplies at schools, but they're going to try to open some of those schools. So they have to move those supplies to a place better equipped, which is an armory. There is another place that is a drop-off point, and I can get you that. It's a large stadium, I believe, that they're trying. Now, it's going there so it can be inventoried and then get out to the places that need it the most. So that's what's happening in parts of Tennessee. I know that from boots on the ground. In the other side, boots much bigger than mine, my loves. And I can kick some ass, just telling you, because you know I'm the type of person that, okay, where's the mountain?
She's a
redhead. Going through it, around it? Are we going over it? Are we going through it? I mean, people are dropping insulin by drone. They are. You figure out how to do it. There is a story. Now, these are the kind of hearts that are getting people through this. You've all heard the story of the gentleman who's using a private helicopter with his co-pilot, who was his son. I believe between 16 and 18 years old, somewhere around in there, son his age. They're out and he's getting, this is in the beginning, in the first couple of days, where he's getting calls. Can you please do wellness check? Can you go? These people are trapped on the mountain. These people are trapped on a roof. These people are here. And he's all day going back and forth, getting people to safety, getting people going in, getting people out. He's not even at the point, but he's doing rescue at this point. He's not bringing supplies. The second day he asked his son, you want to go out again? Son said, hey, you bet we do. Imagine what the son is learning. So he's about to learn another lesson here in a minute. So he goes up on the mountain. They get to a couple who has been since the beginning of the storm. I think we're on day 3 by now. I could be off a day. And they land to get the older couple out. And now he's got a weight differential in the helicopter. And again, he's paying for the gas. He's doing all this voluntarily on his own, a pure-blooded American heart. Okay. And he leaves his son there with the older man and brings the older woman in with her suitcase because he wanted to balance the load. So he flies down and he finds a group. One was a member of the fire department. I don't want to say who, but it has been settled. Trust me. And some people that were with him. And he said that if you take off and you land again, you will be arrested. This actually happened. It's not a rumor. It's not made up. It's not fake news. The guy explained what he was doing, blah, blah, blah. Well, if you take off, if you go again, I will arrest you. And his son is up at the top of the mountain. So he has to leave the woman. Of course, he went back to the top of the mountain, got his son, but he had to leave the man there. What's the rest of the story? He goes back, puts it on the internet. We connected into a bunch of people. And absolutely, you want to be destroyed in this? You want to be famous? F around and find out. Because now that guy... So give me a picture. So anyway,
was that the one that when they finally went back to get the older man, the roof had caved in and the guy was gone?
Yes, but I'll tell you where he went. That man said, F you. He got his cat, put the cat in his backpack and swam across the river and got out and did connect back with his wife. He is fine. But these are the stories. The intestinal fortitude. Now, I've got stories that didn't turn out too well, and I'm not going to burden you with those tonight. But I do want to clip in, again, and say, look, we're all going to try to do our thing. So if all you can do is share numbers, if all you can do is hook up somebody else with the need that need to be fulfilled, we have to find a way to get RVs, manufactured houses, tiny houses, people to turn in campers, all kind of things. We need them down there.
Anything.
We need people. Yes, we need that so people can gather and commune with each other, possibly find lost pets. A lot of those pets have been moved to where they could be cared for. I think, again, the more you disperse these people away from who they're used to being around, the worse it's going to get. And you go up into that mountain, there's all kind of things going on up there. Yes, there's looting. Yes, there's people who are desperate that are trying to get stuff. You're going to hear a lot of stories like that, but I want you to focus on the helpers. I want you to focus boots on the ground, how to help, because we cannot get caught up in the minutia of the darkness of this horrid event that is more awful than you can ever imagine.
Okay, like
even if you've seen it,
it looks like a war zone.
I cannot tell the stories that I have heard over the past. Look, I'm a tough old broad, but I'm telling you, when you tell me the stories of not one, not two, but multiple families that tied their children into the trees above the raging water and did not have enough rope for themselves. I want you to think about how they looked at each other's faces and tried to tie those kids into those trees. And then I want you to think of something else. Those kids who had to watch their parents get swept away. And now, what are they going to do the rest of their life? Sure, we got them down. Sure, they got fed. Sure, they got care. The mental abuse, the PTSD, the absolute psychological damage on the people that nobody is thinking about this. There should be tents there with the very best doctors without borders. Where are you? Where are you, Hollywood? How much money did Miss Swifty Swish put down on saving these people. I wonder how many fans she had in those mountains that danced around, sang into a hairbrush to her little songs about all the bad choices she's made in her life. Where you at? Where's all these people at? I see people on the ground. I know who's on the ground. I know who's raising money and where that money's going. I see the movement. Don't get me started, because I'm not even begun to get angry about this yet. And we got more coming. So we need to focus. What can we do to help? One, be mindful of your own home. I want everybody, I said this last week, I want every heartbeat in your house. And I'm saying it like I'm a squad leader here, because if I save one life, for the love of God, there's more coming, folks. And I don't mean just hurricanes here. All right. So you get a bug out bag for every heartbeat in your house. That includes your dog, your horse, whatever you got. Because if you got something coming, you start moving early. And don't give me, I can, or we can't afford. Look, you can't afford not to at this point, because obviously there is stuff that's got more money and more chicanery and more button pushing and more different things that they can use to undermine us. And the only thing we've got that we're going to win with is the fact that we're not alone. We stand together, and we're going to get each other through this one crisis at a time. Okay. We cannot forget these people. And we have to do everything we possibly can. And that doesn't mean you have to give $100 to this one or $50 to this. You could start a drive in your hometown, whatever that may be, your church, your school. Put up a sawhorse at either end of your block and put your lawn chair out in the front. Get a box of wine or a bottle of wine or a case of beer and sit there next to a sign that says, I want a block meeting. I want to do a closed drive. Who's with me? And then you get those clothes, and then you get somebody who's good at sorting stuff, and you put them in boxes. And I want toddler girl, toddler boy, 5 to 10. These are the sizes, male, female. These are sizes, medium, extra large, whatever. And you start boxes. And then you have meetings where you sit and you talk to your neighbors, and you find out what's going on in their dusty noggin, and you find out how awake they are, and you keep your mouth shut. You gray man it ahead. And right now you're just helping people, but you're also scouting your neighborhood to see who's going to stand with you. And then you go to those people and you say, you know what I'd like to do? I'd like to start a neighborhood watch. Something very simple. I'm usually up till about 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night. And then I go to bed, and I'll flip my light twice on my porch light, if you can see it. And then you can take over, since you're up till, 4 o'clock in the morning doing whatever, writing your book or doing your accounting or whatever you're doing. And then you watch down the street and see if we see any odd people coming through at night. Caravans with the lights off and no license plates. What's that about? Keep your eyes open, folks. It can happen anywhere, and it will happen anywhere. And the only thing that's going to stop it, we got the element of surprise. We got something else. This is our land. This is our place. They're throwing weather at you, folks. They ain't playing fair, and they ain't coming to help. But we're going to come to help. Even if we're sitting home and we're just collecting coats for these little kids, collecting whatever. Look, they got so much food right now, they don't know what to do with it. They're trying very hard to get these non-perishable items out to these people who need it. We got people that need oxygen. We got people that need generators. We got people that need gas. We got empty Walmarts. They've got no money.
Yep. We've got people out of the mountains butt naked because their
kids are starting to come out of the mountains that have not eaten in days. They just found a church that I don't know how many people in it that hadn't eaten in 6 days. They're still up there, folks. So what you need, it sounds crazy, right? What you need is organization. Do what you can do. But I want you to think about this too. What if we did this, Lynn, and we met with our block? Like I said, put your lawn chair out, put a sign up. I want to do a clothing drive. Who's with me? And maybe somebody is very good at, whatever. Find out, what do you do? What are you willing to do? May not even cost anything. Clean out your closets, and then sort it. You'll find stuff in there that Aunt Sally gave you a sweater. It's going to get cold, folks. We need, and then we go back and you do a little collection. You go down to the dollar store, get a pack of socks, a little pair of underwear, whatever, new undergarments, and put them in the bag. And then I want you to get a little stuffed animal. And then while y'all are doing this, I want you to get the kids in the neighborhood, get to school, have a slumber party. I don't give a shit. You get them together, get them a table, go to the dollar store and buy a couple of boxes of those little greeting cards with the happy pictures on them. And I want the kids to write to other kids and say, I'm an American just like you. You are not forgotten. You are one of me, and we are the future of this country. And I'm showing you how a stranger can reach out to a stranger and wish you a happy day. You are not forgotten. And have them write things like that. Have them come up with the happy faces and put them in an envelope. Don't seal the envelope, because we need adults to look at the envelope inside to make sure that there's nothing really scary that these traumatized kids would see, but a happy face and some hearts and some stickers, and they can have a blast with it. And then you can take those cards and you can stick them in the pockets of the coats in each bag. And I want everything in a clear bag. I'm saying this for a reason. Get somebody to find out where they're selling clear garbage bags. And in that garbage bag goes everything for a 3-year-old, 3T girl, and a stuffed animal, and a couple of nice cards that they can open, and maybe something else in the pocket, like a power bar or whatever, nothing that's going to perish. You have to think about that. And then you write on the bag what's in there and what size. And then that gets sealed and goes in the box with the kids. And then all of that's going to have to go on a pallet. And then we're going to have to go down to the Home Depot and get some shrink wrap and wrap the whole thing. And then by God, Cisco will get on the phone and say, okay, where's my pickup? And I'll find a truck to come get that shit. And I'll get it to somebody who's going to distribute that with the care and love that you put into it to put it together. And if every block did that, if every town did that, we could keep these people warm. So they don't have to grovel to a tyranny that's giving them $750 if you don't have house insurance. 9 people out of 10 are getting turned away for this. Don't you buy that shit.
Yeah, read that.
And I've heard that there's fine print in there, Lynn.
Yes.
She knows what I'm going to say. That if you sign that, you could be getting caught up in a little something, a little shell game that you're trying to pull off with your, allegedly.
Land grab.
Read it. Don't sign anything. Let's see how many lawyers do you think are walking around right now with the full in heart and intent to help the people that need it. There should be a tent down there with lawyers volunteering their time to go over any paperwork. These poor, traumatic, stress-ridden people that have hacked and clawed their way off that mountain. To assist them, they should have another tent where they are assisted to get their licenses back so they can get in there and go into the travel trailer, voting trailer that I'm darn sure is going to be there so those people can go in there and vote for a better future for themselves. All these things can be done. I don't want to hear that they can't. I am absolutely livid. Lynn, take it away. I'm going to share our links. Go ahead.
And these links that Cisco is posting are people that she knows personally, people that I also know, some of these people, and they're legitimate. They will walk you through everything that they're doing. They will show receipts for every penny that's spent. If you donate money, if you donate merchandise or anything, that you will know exactly where it's going every day. They're talking about where the things are. These are people that are boots on, and they actually hand them to the people that need it, instead of having some other agency out there trying to decide whether you're worthy to have it or not. No, if you come need, you are given the item. You don't have to have a certain income, because right now, if you have nothing, it doesn't matter if you're a millionaire. If you have in this moment, you're desperate and you've lost everything, and you need clothes to put on and a toothbrush and shelter or something to keep you warm. Like Cisco said, it doesn't matter color, religion, age, whether you have money or not.
So true.
The one thing that happened real quick is you guys always got to keep a little cash on hand, because this turns into a society within 5 minutes of that thing hitting. And
you got to have cash. You've got to have at least 3 gallons of water per person and pet in your family, and that's for washing, hygiene, and staying alive. Now, again, you could be the best prepper in the world and have the whole world. If your world comes out from under you, you got nothing. you know.
That's right.
So again, these people did not know it was going to hit. So you're going to have to expect the unexpected.
Yes.
That's the only thing you can do, is try to be prepared ahead of time. I think it's a great idea to get with the people in your neighborhood. Start by collecting clothes, get to know a few of them before you say anything about this, you know, watching the neighborhood and say, hey, you know, I've seen a couple of, you know, strange cars that don't belong here. You know, maybe a neighborhood watch, because listen, if you had something where you could just, you know, signal people with lights, or if you want to go as far as walkie talkies, I mean, you can get as elaborate or as simple as you want. But people need to be watching, because there's a lot of chicanery going on. And that means wherever you are. I don't care if you're in the city or you're rural or whatever. I got people rural that are missing horses out of their pen, that are missing cats, dogs, all kinds of things, that are seeing strange people coming around DoorDash and casing their stuff, taking videotapes after they drop off your food, taking pictures of the inside of your house. There's something going on. You need to be aware, and you need to be careful. You need to be prepared, not scared, and that includes for the weather. We got another one coming for Florida. So this is what I want you to do. There are many independent. I'm not telling you not to watch the National Weather Service. But when all this was going down, and many other in the past, tornadoes and otherwise, especially the big ones that hit all that stuff in Texas that happened last year. It was just horrible with the cold and everything. Ryan Hall, y'all, I know I've said it here before. It's very easy to find. It's on YouTube. This is also one of the charities that if you feel like donating and that's the way you're going to help, that's fantastic. He's one of the places I would trust to do it. He shows receipts. He gets results. He had helicopters out there day one. He's in multiple areas. He is, I know for sure, hit Georgia, North Carolina, and Tennessee. And he's going back out again. That being said, he is also some of the best weather coverage I've ever seen. I've seen the man save lives with all the other meteorologists on there and storm chasers live on the ground. He has saved lives. They're the only people I know that were calling out warnings for Georgia, tornadoes and other things before the National Weather Service was doing it. It was almost like they'd call it out 5 minutes, and then the tornado warning would go out for the National Weather Service. They do it right there live. So to me, that's 5 extra minutes you would have had if you were watching Ryan and paying attention. So let's do that. I'm not telling you to not watch anybody else, but let's get the best warnings that we can get ahead of time. Okay. And I do want you to see if you can get with people in your neighborhood, somebody, 1 or 2 people, because look, if they can give you a warning and say, hey, I got weird people coming in and they're up here at the block, and then you see it over here, well, then you're up and you're ready and you're paying attention. And you should be doing that no matter what you do out there in your life during the day. So I'm going to share here. This is some results. I believe this was in Newport, Tennessee. This is somebody I've been watching for a very long time. And like Lynn said, trust her dearly, because these are the kind of results you get. So why don't you see what a little help looks like?
We are here in Newport with our convoy drop-off. We've got Miss Cameron here. She is one of the awesome volunteers here at the facility at 611 West Broadway. So you can come and drop off all the needs for the county. Miss Cameron, what are things that people can bring and drop off? How is everybody?
This is Patera
in the county. Take it away, girl.
Well, I know a lot of people right now need flashlights and like batteries and stuff for the flashlights, just essentials like that.
Okay. What about cleaning supplies?
We have started getting some cleaning supplies, but all of it helps.
Right.
If you have some to donate, please donate. Bobby, Hartford, Cosby, and the downtown area, Edwana, Del Rio, Paris, that all got hit really bad. The Pigeon River flows right through there.
Right.
And I think it got up to like 26, 27 feet of water.
This little girl's been out here volunteering the whole time right next to Patera.
A bunch of people lost their homes.
So is water still, even with, you all have a nice little hole right now, but it obviously goes really fast. So obviously the number one need right now, since the water is off,
11,000 cases a day.
County, or what do you know?
There are certain areas in Newport who still have water. People who have well water still have water.
Okay.
City water, though, if they have the city water, then they don't have water. It's been shut off, and it will be for, I believe, quite a while. They have started saying they might shut off some people up in Sevierville if they use Newport utilities and stuff.
Okay, that's good to know. I didn't hear that. She was talking about how folks with wells, how they are becoming like a hub for their little neighborhoods and community. So everybody up here, the first thing she talked about was how Cobb County, we're taking care of our people. We're taking care of ourselves. Nobody's going to come in here and change it. We are who we are. Yeah. So this is community strong right here. Anything else you'd like to tell everybody out there to how to help you, y'all at all?
We're all super grateful for the donations. Every little bit helps, even if you can't donate. Just prayers and stuff.
Always. Well, you're doing an awesome job. You're doing a great job, girl.
You.
All right, more to come.
Chewy.
Now,
Sorry.
I don't know how wonderful that makes you feel, but I showed you that because Patera is telling everybody there's no division. When you are suffering and your neighbors are suffering and strangers are you're helping. Now, is there chicanery and other things going? You bet it is, and we got our eye on it, and everybody's reporting it, and everybody's trying to keep in front of this train. But we also have to find a way to ride this train without going crazy. So I want you to pick a car. Some of us are going to be in the bar car with our feet up, trying to figure out, okay, what next? But we're doers. We're getting it done. We're finding ways to help. We're finding ways to get information out there. Yep, there you go. It's still today. And again, Froze, are you seeing that? Does that help you? That information that a lot of people are getting that TEMA seems to be moving that food to. It's a large stadium, and I think Bear says it. An armory or something to try to get it sorted and inventoried so they can get it out to where it needs to go. I think that you guys in Tennessee are getting a lot more organization and help on the ground and stuff like that. The real problem and the real dark shadow seems to be over there in North Carolina. So listen, we're going around it. People are finding ways. They're muling stuff up there, walking these little to go around FEMA, to go around the people that you've been paying taxes in, hoping that they would be able to help you in an issue, and whoops, the money's gone. So now we have to go around them to get the supplies to where they need to go, and there's a lot of needs still up in the mountains. So don't let up. So Lynn, go ahead. I've got another one. Go ahead.
Yeah, we've got another storm bearing down on Florida, which could very well be manipulated and sent back up this way again. So people be prepared, because the storms are not going to be normal from here on out. We just had an earthquake in Canada, 4.0 near Ontario. There's some funky stuff going down. So you can't be prepared enough. Don't assume that the snowstorm's going to be regular. Don't assume that the tropical storm
be ready.
Peter out.
Have your pet carriers ready. Have the leashes ready. Yep. Water for the pets. Be prepared, not scared. Yep. Right? Absolutely. And now the next one I'm going to show you here real quick. Again, I mentioned Ryan. I mentioned Pinball was another one. He's doing a great job. Pinball is real specific about what he's working with.
Yes, I watched.
Oh yeah. Oh, he's wonderful. But they've raised over I think it's well over $250,000 in just this past week, and there's more coming. He's doing a great job. He actually hooked up with Patera, and doing great stuff on the ground in Tennessee. So he's been doing great. He's another one that shows you all the receipts. He does this every Christmas. So, and he was also, I believe, I know he was a sergeant in charge of something. I think he did this in the Army. So he's got a very well organized, group, and it's in over a couple of different states that come in and they load the trucks and bring them in, and they meet in one spot and then get it to where they need to go. And they are getting all of their stuff past all the, let's just say, the barricades too. So this is Pinball. If you didn't get to see, he's going to give a quick one here. Great. Go ahead.
Greenville as well. He's also been having shipments down into Greenville, South Carolina as well.
Absolutely, and yes. Go ahead.
I mean, he's one of there. There are a lot of trucks that have been trying to come through that haven't been. You know, of course, they need to condense in North Carolina because it's much worse than even where we are. But it's nice to have some of the trucks come through to help us as well.
Yes, yes, and they have been, and he's doing great, and I think he's about ready to go out again. But he lets you know step by step. He comes on 4 times a day and brings you to updates. So even if it's just you want to keep updated, truth, he's going to be a little less to point out a lot of the stuff that I was trying to point out. But he does allude to it. He just doesn't go deep into it. But I talked to him about, behind, like in the comments and stuff like that. He lets it go a little bit more where he sees exactly what's going on and he's not going to have it. So he's another one that you can put your trust into. Here's a little bit of pinball.
Gang, happy Sunday morning. Yeah, I know it's late, but I needed to get some sleep. And foolish me decided to stay up late last night and watch the end of the UT Arkansas game. And boy, that was a piss poor showing by Tennessee. That's all I got to say. It was like, that's not the team I'm used to watching. They just
military folks.
But
military.
All right, I know it was a goofy day for a lot of people. Alabama losing to Vanderbilt, Michigan lost to Wisconsin. It was like, okay, this college football was crazy yesterday. It's about the last sport I can kind of enjoy that isn't totally woke, but it's getting damn close.
That's it, folks. Yep.
But okay. Yeah, besides hockey, and there's no hockey around here, so, and I just can't root for Nashville after being a Golden Knights fan, so. All right, enough of that crap. Yeah, it's been a hell of a week, and it ain't ending. If y'all noticed, combined between all our avenues yesterday, we crossed the $250,000 mark, which is just dumbfounding to me. My brain can't comprehend this, but it's a good thing. And so working on what we can do next. And you guys know we got diapers coming, we got baby food coming, and we got baby wipes coming, and we've got God knows what. Obviously, it's Sunday, and I'm not going to be bothering anybody with the churches. I think they're busy today. As to what's needed. I know a lot of you have sent me ideas on things to get, places to contact, stuff like that, which is greatly appreciated. I'm still going off of their guidance on what to get, but some of the things that you guys come up with, we're implementing. I mean, there was a good idea here that somebody posted on a live stream last night. I think it was in the comments of the live stream about getting canned hams. It's that time of year. We can start getting those.
Yep.
If I can find a place where I can get a pallet full of them, I will. I mean, even those little ones that we all keep as preps, those are good. They're pre-cooked, everything. It was something that I hadn't thought of. Not that I've got them in my house. It's the silly part. I should go through my own prep room, see what I have, and see what to buy.
So that's a little bit of pinball. I just wanted to give you a little bit of his personality, and ease you into my favorite one, because I want you to understand that some people get a little bit, let's just say, oh gosh, he talks so rough. He seems like he's a little around the edges, Okay, here's the thing, boys.
He's a good guy. He's a straight
If
shooter.
you want somebody to get it done, if you want somebody who has got so many people that sing the praises of this place, I cannot even begin to tell you. Okay, so here's the deal. Bear Independent is, believe it or not, a pastor, and he's my kind of pastor, and he's something else, but he's military, and he gets it done. And from preppers that I know that have been on the ground for Texas, the tornadoes in Florida, all of the horror stories that you've heard over the past couple of years. every prepper I know and person that I know and volunteered to go down, they say the first group that's there is Grindstone Ministries. Now, he's on YouTube under Bear Independent. He is on YouTube under Grindstone Ministries, and he is also, what's the name of the medical, Lynn? It was, it starts with an R. It's not Rapid. I always get the name. It's right here. I'm going to show it. It's Grindstone Ministries, bearindependent.com, refugemedical.com. Now, I want you to write that name down or remember this video so you can screenshot it. I'm going to show you right now. Let me get this screen share up here. I'm doing this to try to help. If I help one person, guys, this is so worth it. Let's see, where is it? Okay, here it is. Okay, let me get this up. Here you can see it here. Here are the links. It is, can you see that, Lynn? I'm on another screen here. Am I up yet?
I'm zooming in on it.
It's kind of small.
Yep,
it's kind of small, but you can see, as long as you can see it and they can screenshot it or they can, record this part of the video or whatever. But it's bearindependent.com. Okay. It is a Refuge Medical. Okay. And they got all kind of stuff in stock. They got all kind of different things. Get on there. His big thing is getting insulin and oxygen and things like that where other people can't get it, because they're the first on the ground. They got multiple groups in multiple counties and states right now, and they are really getting it done. So this is, Grindstone Ministries down here.com. And listen, he does a lot of help. This is not their first rodeo, as he will tell you. But what I'm about to show you is everything I know to be true and more. But I also want to show you that there is a person at a place you can go to as a straight shooter. Now, he's not going to put up a lot of videos. He'll tell you that here in this vid. He's not going to put up a lot coming up because he's busy. He doesn't have a lot of bandwidth. This guy is in somewhere Oklahoma. And again, the FOB, the forward operational base that they're running out of right now is in Tennessee, in your area there, Froze. And they're operating out of that, and they're getting this done. This is the guy that's got 20 people with backpacks humping water like mules up the side of these crevices to get up to these mountains and cross over these down trees and everything else to haul in supplies to the people that would be forgotten if they didn't do this. So many people are out there helping with chainsaws and everything else. But this guy knows how to get around everything, and you'll see why in a minute. Now, if you're weak in the stomach, if things bother you, if harsh language bothers you, again, you're not going to make it at this point. Toughen up, because this is my kind of guy, and he's going to tell you the truth here. And I agree with every word he's saying. Lynn, we're going to do it. What do you think?
I agree
right?
with you.
Do it, right?
Definitely.
Because if it saves a life, it's worth losing my channel over. We're doing it. Here we go. Please listen to every word Bear says. Every word.
We are good on volunteers right now. After the 14th of October, we will need more volunteers. So if you want to come serve, you email serve@grindstoneministries.com. Serve@grindstoneministries.com. What do you need? Blah, 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 blah. All that is on the website at grindstoneministries.com. So go check that out. Please do not email me or social media me links, questions, any of that. All of that goes to grindstoneministries.com. I'm up here at the strategic level trying to figure all this stuff out. So, and especially sending me videos. Bear, you got to watch this video. No, I didn't have to watch that shit beforehand.
You got time for that shit, baby.
Time or the literal bandwidth to watch it now. Okay, so please don't do that. What else? The situation in Western Tennessee, as far as governance is concerned, is good. TEMA, Tennessee Emergency Management Agency, is not confiscating supplies.
1 second.
Need the perfect voice for your video game character?
Okay. They're relocating supplies, many of which were located in school. Schools are starting back in 9 days. Can't have school in a building filled with supplies. So those supplies are being relocated to Bristol Motor Speedway by Tennessee Emergency Management Agency. That's intentional. TEMA is working with Grindstone to disperse those goods, those supplies as needed. But we have to know what we have, which is why they're going to Bristol so they can be inventoried. And because there's enough room at Bristol to hold everything, then be pushed back out. They're not being confiscated. They're being moved. That being said, the stuff that is at churches is being left alone because churches already function as a volunteer resource center as a distribution center.
He's got to.
So there's a lot of bullshit on the internet about they're confiscating things, put them in the churches. They can't go in the churches. We're not confiscating things on the Tennessee side. Again, separate Tennessee from North Carolina.
Listen close.
Nothing's being confiscated. It's being relocated so it can be inventoried, so it can be pushed back out into the community. And we don't need to relocate anything from churches because they have the space to hold it. And they already have the network of people to push it out into the community as needed.
Perfect
so
sense.
That's all good. On the North Carolina side, things are very, very different.
Yes.
FEMA appears to have established a cordon around the disaster affected area. And they are not, by and large, letting supplies in, because of declared emergency doesn't exist in North Carolina, which people have gone back and forth the why and the legalities and the morals and ethics of that. But because it doesn't exist, the sheriff in each county is still the highest elected official, which is good, which means the sheriff can tell people to pound sand. And in many cases, they have told people to pound sand.
Yes, that's
people
true.
Being FEMA. And so supplies are getting in drips and drabs. Grindstone has established what we are calling the Ho Chi Musk Trail to literally, on our backs if necessary, bring Starlinks from Tennessee into North Carolina behind enemy lines.
Hell yeah.
Helos. We're also working on draft boats, and we will need barges as well. This is literally sea, air, and land at this point.
This is what we need.
There are critical needs as far as supplies and infrastructure are concerned. There is an Amazon wish list. I don't love giving Jeff Bezos money, but all of the things that we need, or most of the things we need, can be found on Amazon, and it aggregates. And so if you want to pour in that way, you can visit Amazon and just search for Grindstone Ministries, and you'll find the Grindstone's wish list that's being updated, populated regularly. If you go on there and everything's sold out, check back a half a day or a day later.
Yes.
More things will be posted there as needs arise.
We need this.
North Carolina is a shit show.
Yes.
North Carolina is bad. Mm-hmm. So we are running cross-border operations against the recommendation of Pete Buttigieg and the FAA, Aviation Authority, and whoever else. Don't care for the preservation of life. There are people over there that need help.
Absolutely.
So we're doing that.
Get them there.
FEMA confiscating supplies going to illegals may, based upon the current intel picture, may be happening on the North Carolina side. It is not happening on the Tennessee side, which is why our FOB is in Tennessee.
That's where
and we're Grindstone. We're a nationally registered 501c3. This is our 46th deployment.
46.
And not our first rodeo.
Mm-mm.
And so we have the same authority as the American Red Cross.
Yeah.
We are actually out there, boots on the ground, getting stuff done.
Yes.
That being said, this storm and the response to this storm are both unprecedented. The scope of this, the scale of this is massive. It's unheard of.
Unheard of.
And we've been there now 9 days. We are in the 9th day of the Great American Captivity. We're going to need more volunteers. We're going to need more supplies. We're going to need more resources for months and months and months. And the way the media cycle works is nobody's.
Here's an idea. There's a lot of people out there that have no jobs left. There are people out there that do not know what to do. They have skills, they have abilities, they have knowledge. All of this can be used. We can rebuild a community back. The ones that stay, the ones that don't have a place to go or another family to move in with or relatives to go into another state. There are things that can be done. This man and his organization will have those answers. If you know someone who's displaced, who has lost everything and has nowhere to go, but is willing to volunteer, you can hook up with one of these groups, and I'm sure they will find plenty for you to do. And as you're working through that, you will meet people who can better help you organize your personal journey. whether that's getting your ID and trying to sort, so you can get to your bank, so you can get cash to help your situation, or if you don't have any of that and you need some guidance. These massive things that happen in the world like this are all, I know it sounds horrible, but let's just say this was a natural disaster, which I do. Let's just force that out of my mouth and think that, okay, that it happened. There's lots of people who say, well, why did God allow it? I'm not going to get into that. What I am going to say is, you can see that this disaster happened, and now God is moving through people, and good people are getting up and they're doing stuff. And sometimes these massive things happen to also, you find out you got shifted on your journey, and it was a hard damn left, and some of it is a bad U-turn. But then you find out, okay, this is why that happened. I survived that. Now I'm going to use that to propel me forward in my future. It wasn't what I had planned, but this is where I am, and I'm going to do the best with what I have now. And if you know people that can volunteer, these are the places you go to do that, because with these groups, you're going to be best used for your knowledge, your trade, and your ability, and your willingness to do it. And I think that's a great idea for people that are looking for something, a way to help. What do you think, Lynn?
I agree. And this is a time, we keep talking about the light bearers and the light anchors.
Yes.
Time to shine. This is
Yep.
where it's created, because
we're born for this.
Yeah, this is what we are here for. And there's more to come, Mordecai, says my mother would say.
Yep.
So, we've just got to deal with what we have closest to us, where we can go and volunteer. Even if in your neighborhood, if you can't go out to volunteer for these places, if you know that there's an elderly couple on your block, or maybe a woman alone, or a single mother for that matter, go knock on the door and make sure that they're okay and that they have what they need. Make sure that their lights are back on. Make sure that their kids food and can be fed, or if they maybe don't have their electricity back on, they can come
or
over.
Pet food, cat food. Do you have something extra? Do you have, do you want to just go by and say, hey, I'm knocking on doors to see everybody's got everything, checking on, is your electric okay? Do you have communications? You contact with your loved ones? It might be that you're just supposed to be an information bearer. And you can do that because you wrote down all the numbers for all of the contacts for different counties in different states. That's what I've been doing for a week. I cannot tell you how many people that I've tried to hook up with the need. Like they were sitting a mile away from the place they could get the things they wanted, but didn't have any idea it was there. And then they had no way of getting it, but we had a way of getting it to them. We just didn't know that they were there and they needed it. So there's lots of that going on. And there's lots of course, displaced people and everything else. But I need you to, this is about 2 more minutes. I need you to listen to everything he is saying. And even if you don't agree with it, because maybe it's something you hadn't heard or hadn't considered, or even would think and imagine that it could be true, I need you to put it on your shelf. Because the next week coming up, you might look back at some of the things he's saying and go, you know what? That's clicking for me now. I'm tracking this, And again, don't get scared, because he's just a tough military dude that this is my spirit animal right here. This. I love people like this. Is how I get when there's a crisis. This is exactly how you do it. He's calm. He's precise. He's deliberate in his words, and he means what he says, folks. Here it is.
Already talking about this at a national media level, and those that are talking about this at the media level will be moved on to something else in a couple of weeks. So please don't forget us.
Do not allow it.
Said, if you have a following, if you are a content creator, or if you are with a media outlet, reach out, surf at grindstoneministries.com and put media in the subject line. You are welcome at our FOB. You are welcome to go out and report and push this information out.
Yes.
Because part of what is happening is an information blackout on this entire situation.
Yes.
Probably for one or more reasons. One is the federal government is not doing anything about this. They don't have the money. They've blown their budget for disaster on bringing militant illegal criminals across our southern border. And that's blowing up in Kamala's face. And so they're not talking about it. The other is, it very really looks like, I cannot confirm, but it very really looks like there's an attempt at a federal land grab in Western North Carolina going on right now.
Yes.
Due to the criticality of the infrastructure that's located there, specifically certain types of mines that produce certain types of product. Which
Quartz and lithium.
Maybe not. Mining
Not a
permits
rumor.
on September 24, 2004 were submitted by BlackRock for these areas.
100%.
These areas that were then hit by a storm. I can't confirm that, and it doesn't change the situation on the ground. But there's a media blackout on this intentionally. That's why they don't want Starlinks into North Carolina. But as a result of no Starlinks into North Carolina, people are dying because without commo, there's no logistics. Without logistics, you can't win the war. So that's a little bit of an update from the field. Please visit grindstoneministries.com. Please do not contact me on social media. I already have extremely limited bandwidth, literal and figurative. Reach out to serve@grindstoneministries.com.
Serve.
Expect from this channel maybe some disruption as far as the frequency of posting is concerned, because I literally don't have the bandwidth. It is not possible for me to upload videos, to go live. Lastly, we've had some people from certain assemblies in certain parts of the world reach out to us wanting to come and donate their time. And these assemblies know who they are. I'll just say this. I am in no way friends with anybody that harbors pedophiles or tolerates the presence of pedophiles in their congregations. And you know exactly who you are.
Amen,
and we know exactly who you are. And so I would appreciate it if you just stay your happy ass home. Fuck around and find out. That being said, I love every one of y'all.
Love you back there.
See you. Shalom.
Shalom, baby.
Yeah.
There's a man getting it done.
You know,
there's a man getting it done. I agree with every word he said, Lynn.
I agree 1,000% with him too. And you know, you got to keep in mind too, like he's talking about the land grab. I mean, those are all red states, and people aren't going to be able to vote in the net. What is it, 35 days or something like that.
We're going to fix that. There's going to be a way. There's going to be a way that they can set up a tent and help these people get their personal papers back, like their driver's license and their bank cards that they've lost. We don't know what they have and what they don't. So there's going to be organization. Your best shot at getting anything organized that's going to get things done, get bridges built, there's already people up there in the hills building bridges the way they used to back in the day. They've got shopping carts, and they're using a pulley system to get gas across so people can get their generators going. They're doing all kind of things. So again, if you're in the area and you have a need, please send an email to Grindstone Ministries if you have a way to help, if you have some equipment, if you have some time, if you've lost your job and you don't know what to do and you're just in a panic and you don't know what to do. Please get a hold of, this is the place you would go for that, to say, okay, look, I don't know where to go for the next 2 weeks. I might as well volunteer. Maybe I can make some connections and find out what to do next. I might as well sort everything while I'm here and help my community and, try to hook up with the people that I'm familiar with and go from there, rather than sitting in a car and you're all panicked and you don't know what to do. Go volunteer. If your hands move, you're going to get fed. You're going to have a purpose, and you're going to rebuild back that self-esteem and that foundation again that's been ripped and torn asunder. There's so many people out there that could use your understanding and your love and everything else. So go volunteer. Bear needs people. Everybody's able to take a couple weeks off from work or had a little, whatever the situation is. And that shifts. He needs a new group of people with chainsaws and everything else coming after, I guess the 15th, he said, and other things too. So hook up into that. If you're of the mind, hook up with Grindstone Ministries and send them an email and say, look, this is what I have. This is what I'm able to do. This is my time frame. Be very precise. Think military. Be precise in what you need or what you're offering, and get out there because, next week it could be Florida, again, the people in Tampa are a little unnerved right now, and they have reason to be. So please keep your eye. Ryan Hall, y'all, I want to go back over what I said last week. I want everybody to have a bug out bag for every heartbeat in your house. I want ladies and men alike, if you have no way to carry something licensed on you that can be of assistance in an emergency situation, I want you to put a fire extinguisher in your car. I want you to use that and practice looking at, getting ready to pull out the pin and aiming it at somebody's face, and then pop in the side. That's a great weapon. You can get away. I do not want you to pull up in traffic tight. I want you to give yourself space that if anything happens, you could back out and get out of that situation. Look, this is for all the marbles in some places, folks. I think that they're going to be a little angry that we all came together and are helping our fellow man out of their situation. There are so many people that are lost, so many people that do not know about their loved ones yet. If you can help in that way, just trying to hook up and getting out the missing people. I want people in America to see the Americans that have been lost. I do not want this to be put under the rug. We cannot allow them to let this be lost in the next headline. This is Americans on American soil, and they're suffering right now. And there's somewhere, there are people sitting in a house huddled and thinking they're forgotten and waiting for that knock on that door or that helicopter. The stories that are out there, folks, I could break your heart right now. Now we start to rebuild and put it together and prevent. If we know the rules they're playing by, we can get ready.
Yes,
Lynn, take us out.
Yeah, and also another thing too, everybody, step back, step out of your fear, stay calm, and look at situations. Read the fine print. Don't just jump because something sounds wonderful, because if it's too good to be true, it is definitely something that you need to look at. And just because it's coming from a supposed trusted government-run thing doesn't necessarily mean that it is what it's
anymore. You
right,
see
so
what you do, folks. You can see. I will tell you this, that those meetings were being held in those towns. There are local news shows done on it. The name of the company that I don't have it on the top of my head right now, the name of the company that was trying to expand the already present company that was there near a place called, is it Cherryville? And it was Spruce Pine, I believe.
I want to know Spruce Pine.
Right. The dastardly, evil, interwoven bullshit that took off before this long game of setting people up. Let me tell you something. There's an area there that was washed out that hundreds of years ago, Native American knew not to live there because it was a flood zone. There is paperwork that if you want to research this, you can. It's all in the real estate paperwork. It was recorded as a flood zone up until a few years ago, and then it was changed. So the people who bought the land were buying land that was not in a flood zone. Okay? So they didn't get flood insurance. If you apply for the 750 and you had housing insurance, not flood insurance, housing insurance, you don't get the 750 because it's up to the insurance company to give you money. And I guarantee you, once you go through all that, you're not going to get very much. The average is like 20 grand on a home.
True. And in addition to that, you need to watch that fine print because they expect to be back, even though they say it's a gift. It is not a gift. They expect to be paid back. And if you don't pay it back within that point in time, your land gets grabbed. It is a land.
Your land's gone. So don't look at anything. All right, here's the thing. You have to understand psychological warfare. Something like this happens, it takes everybody out from under. They waited out. You notice how long they waited? 6 days. Well, that's the amount of time. If you didn't have water, you'd probably be gone. They're literally doing that. They're literally waiting people out. And we cannot allow that to happen. So that's the way it appears to me, allegedly. Okay, so we got to beat them at this game. So if you know that they're that down under to do that, to go and have town meetings where the town people and business owners and commerce said we don't want to expand, and then they have to be careful because there's people in the town that do want to expand because so much money is coming in from this company. Now they got the town arguing between each other, and the whole time these bastards freaking planning maybe having a natural thing, an unusual once in a lifetime thing where so much rain is poured and this thing just sits, kind of like it did in Texas, kind of like the wildfires are happening, kind of like the stuff in Pleasantville, kind of like the stuff in Maui, kind of like. And then what happens? Well, your home's gone, your people are gone, you didn't wash down the river, you were lucky enough to claw your way off the top of that daggum mountain. And the whole thing was stacked against you to begin with. So I'd be a little nervous now. I'd want to know what I was sitting on, what my land was sitting on, because apparently, folks, if you're on something that, and you don't want to move, look, we've heard it all from the Bundy Ranch to everything else. So let's be careful out there. Let's take care of each other. Let's be smart. And here's another channel. This is Patera's. I didn't say it. It's Appalachian Homestead. Now, there's more out there, folks, but there's so many out there. But I can vouch for these three. I've seen them in the works. Please find out a way to help. Derek, thank you so much. I did not say thank you for the PayPal before, my brother. I'm so glad you're out there. And I'm telling you something going on with the sun. That I feel like the lady on the plane pointing at it going, that MFR ain't real. Something's going and I can't explain it. I don't know whether it's the aluminum in the chemtrails that's making it look different and feel different. I don't know. But again, it's all coming at once. It's crazy conspiracy, I know, but here it is. My tinfoil hat turned into a crown a long time ago and got big old gems hanging in that son of a bitch. So there you go. I love you all. Go ahead.
And not the work of God. This is being done on purpose. It is weather warfare. And so that's all I'm going to say about that.
Call me crazy. So that's why I'm saying this. If I didn't say this, if I didn't take the chance of losing all this and, having to start another channel and trying to find you all again and all that, so be it. So be it. If we save one person, if one child gets a warm coat, if one child, is protected and not upscunged and some other kind of horrible thing happen because, they never let a good crisis go to waste. You know what I mean? So please let's stop, with these protective services that aren't. That it's almost like everything that they name is the opposite. I don't get me started. My head has just been pounded. I don't have very much sleep, but I'm trying to think of everything I can think of to help out. Make sure you've got pet food, make sure you've got, your weather radio, make sure you've got communications and a plan with your family, make sure you have water. And here's the thing. This is the dumbest question I've ever heard from people who say, what's the use of prepping? If those people could have been the best preppers in the world and their whole house was washed out from under them and everything else. And I'm like, yeah. But there were people up there that were able to claw their way to higher ground and get out of the way and gather the people and pull them out of the water. And they huddled there and they were fed and they were given water because somebody in that house prepped and had enough to share and give and get them through. So they survived till they were able to get out. I've got multiple stories. So please, if the people on the mountains, if they had food, they would be okay till help could get, or they could get down. So think about these things. Okay.
Yes. And the thing is too, is people need to understand this, these organizations that Cisco and I are both recommending, we are not affiliated with them. We're not getting any kind of payment.
No.
Advertising this. We are doing this because we believe in them and they are the real deal. These are not government funded. These are people like us that are real people that are doing what they're saying that they're doing. And that's why we're trying to give alternatives to other people so that they don't go donating their money to, and I'm sorry, some of the churches,
notice what Bear said. Barry said assemblies. So what he was talking about, I believe, and I'm not speaking for Bear. I'm saying what I believe, what I got from that, what the energy I pulled from that was he was saying assemblies. So large churches that we know, like these TD Jakes and all these people. Look, honey, look, we could talk. So just understand that's what I think he meant. And you know, you heard what he said: pedophiles, protected pedophile. He don't put up with shit. This is a man who's American, red-blooded through and through. When he says FOB, he means forward operational base. So they are based in Tennessee. And again, you know, if you want to get a hold of them to volunteer or to get help or whatever it may be, that's the hub to go to. I can't find one bigger and better. The only other one I could say of that's it's probably running on that scale would be Ryan's, and you know, the helicopters and everything else, and they know the way to get around the barricades that shouldn't be there in the first place. Your taxpayers, you're paying money, you know, of course you expect it. Let me tell you something. Fort Bragg, you cannot blame the soldiers. They're running on. Me personally, I'd have been in that helicopter. Not catch my ass, put me in Leavenworth, because you're allowed to turn away a bad order. But they've been sitting there for a week. You know, I'm watching these cheese balls come out with these videos where they're pretending, oh, I used to work for CIA, I used to do this, and I can tell you I work for intelligence, and, you know, all these people are on the ground, and these people are getting help, and the military was there in 5 minutes, and all this is bullshit. Don't you buy that crap. Listen to people on the ground. Be very careful of these people that say, I got to GoFundMe, help me get my car. I'm living in my leaky car. I can't say those are true or not true. Don't do it. What now? I've given you enough. I've given you enough in 2 places. Georgia's being well taken care of. Somebody that's pretty darn famous went down there and raised like $2 million and spread that money all around real quick. I've seen many faces down in the ground. I've seen Telsey. I've seen Obaka. I've seen so many people. I've seen the Don, everybody down there handing out food, handing out water, raising money, not asking questions, putting it in the hands that need it. And there's so much food right now, as Froze is saying, you know, stocked in these schools. So I think so. Like, tap the brakes. Even Cajun Navy put out one today. The vice president of Cajun Navy put out, said, hey, okay, this is what we need. We need hands. We need people coming up here and going, I have 2 hands, use me. And that's what they need right now. They do need equipment. They need trucks. They need food, but they need to sort what they have, get it to where they need so they can replenish it, because this is going to be a marathon, folks. This is not going to be fixed in a couple of days. This is going to be decades of rebuilding. So if you're construction and you don't have a lot of work in your town, I can tell you there's a couple places that's going to have a lot of cleanup and a lot of construction. Hey, take this as an opportunity to start your own little. You got a truck, you got a metallic sign, you got a hammer and a shovel. You know, take your tools and go down there and start a new life, because there's going to be a lot to clean up, and there might be some coming in Florida. So be careful, watch the weather, be weather aware, be prepared, don't be scared. We are many, and we're waking up, and we were here for this. We chose to be here at this time. We are light workers. We got to keep the lights on, and we're going to walk these people through this horrid black crap that's crawling over our world. We will come out on the other side. We will come out victorious. We will come out better people for it, and we will become better in our own personal faith. When you see a child's face light up who just lost everything because you showed them kindness, that is the living. It's the same with ghosts. I love you all. Lynn, thank you for being here tonight with me. I think we did good. And go ahead. Last words. How are you doing out there? What do you need? What can we do to help you?
No, I've got I fortunately, I had no electricity for 5 days, I believe it was, or cell or anything, but I had a generator. I had excellent neighbors. We were able to get trees moved and things. So I am good where I am at now. I want to help others. So that's where and so
there we go.
You know, in the
they're going to need wood stoves. They're going to need wood. People say, well, look at all those trees down. Look at all those trees down. They should be cutting that wood and saving that wood. Some of it they may be able to use, but you want to hear reality?
Saturated.
A lot of that wood they're going to have to throw out because it is soaked with the decaying smell and the clinging of bodies and sewer water and everything else. And these people are up there living in this. We got to help these kids. We got to help these people put their lives back together. And I know it sounds,
this is no
so
joke.
many people are having a hard time right now just making it through your week. Are you sleeping in a warm bed? Is your belly full? You know, it's hard to keep that going, but now's the time we need to gather together. So I think the dynamics of our world is going to change to where it starts getting a little bit more back to the Waltons, back to the, you know, the little house on the prairie where people lived together and helped each other out close by. I'm really thinking of that a lot in the, you know, the towns that we're in, because I can look around at all these houses and there's one person in each house. One person in each house. And I've got a lot of elderly people, and I'm trying to find a way to get the information out to them. It's like, look, if you're scared, buddy up. One night sleep, you know, in their house together, and you're on her couch, and then go next door and you can buddy up over there and be with your animals and your TV and all that stuff, and learn to share houses like that. Because here's the thing, when you're alone, you're panicked. And when you're panicked, you lose good time. And you can't think straight. But if you have a plan, even a buddy to have a little tea with and watch the, you know, whatever you're going to watch, a little show, and go to sleep, and you know somebody else is in the house that you trust, and you're just right next door to your house, and you can get over there together. If you need to go check on something, that might be a good idea for a while, and sharing, you know, ideas. And like Pinball said too, like canned hams and things like that. I want you guys to get that. I want you to get a couple bags of rice, a case of beans, which have all that stuff. And don't forget that he's got that the medical too, the Rapid Medical. He's got a warehouse that's the size of a Family Dollar. And you can get antibiotics. I want you to have raw garlic in your house. I want you to keep fresh raw garlic. You can just about beat anything and hold it off until you can get some help with that, and other stuff too. So think smart. Think of what you can do. You can do a lot if you just put your mind to it. I love you, Lynn. And we'll be back tomorrow night.
I'm so proud of you.
No.
Giving this forum for everyone to get this information out. I am so proud of all of those involved that are helping.
I'm just livid.
The wonderful thing. So thank you so much, Cisco, for that. We love you. And everybody, this is no joke. This is not a fire.
So joke.
This
Bros,
is a real deal.
Start planning now. I don't know what your situation is, hon. I'm just throwing some ideas out there, but we need tents. We need Army, Navy stuff. We need to build. If we could build a warming tent, you know, just with a good wood burning stove in there, and everybody chopping wood and donating, you know, just, hey, go chop wood for a couple hours and come donate it to the tent, and set up chairs, set up checkers, games, get a card table up there with some cards on there. All those little things, you know, gather up books, you know, take one, what do you call that when you have a box, like a bookcase that says leave one, take one, that kind of thing. Because here we're going back to where we're entertaining ourselves and getting our minds out of things by reading some books. Maybe have a couple people, look, you got a good speaker like Steve, maybe on a Tuesday, Wednesday night, you could have people come out and do readings, or read a book to these, you know, people. Some place the community can start gathering again. You don't have to have a big shebang. People will find stuff to do on their own. Maybe have a pot of coffee on fire, you know, and just have people talk and let it get out. Like you just said, they just want to talk and they want to laugh and they want to shake a hand and know that somebody gives a crap about them. You don't know what they've been through. If they don't start having tents with therapists and people, you know, decent people, you know, you don't want no head shrinkers out there, but people that can talk and are there just to listen, you know, and hand out some kindness, a candy bar, you know, a bottle of water, I don't know, whiskey, cigar, beer, whatever. And, you know, there's people that are going to lose all their food because they, you know, can't keep it running on a generator. Well, come on down and get a pit and everybody start barbecuing and everybody eat. I'd rather see everybody eat it than lose it. So start doing stuff like that. Everybody can do everything. And it's great to do around the kids and get the kids involved. Like I said, if you don't have anything to keep a bunch of kids involved, you go get a couple boxes of crayons. You get some daggum coloring books. You let them draw pictures and put them in these little cards. You get $2 for a box of 30 cards, and put the card and let them write happy, positive quotes. They're going to learn the quote, and the people getting the card will learn the quote. And you never something like that is going to touch somebody. Let's get back to humanity. Let's get back to doing. Let's get out of our houses and stop being scared. Let's face the monster head on. Let's lean into this torpedo, America. We got this. We've learned from the best. If you don't remember it, go back and watch Liberty. All the answers are there. All the words are there. All of the template is there. We stand. We get strength. We are no longer weak on our knees, depending on anybody. We are doing it for ourselves, and we're going to do it again. Let me tell you something. We don't give up. These colors don't run, and we are here. We are pissed, and we're not taking it anymore. I love each and every one of you. See you tomorrow night. I love you, Lynn. Good night, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Let's have a little music on the way out. I found this old favorite. Let's watch a little of this, because let me tell you, don't make me call the death fairy on you, because she'll get her little pink tutu out here. She'll start bopping people on the head. You better watch out. Good night, baby. Thank you, Lynn.